Thanks everyone for joining us today. Though many of you are familiar with the company, we will run you through a quick presentation and then you can address your questions to Mr. Gehani and to me. So some of you may have seen this corporate presentation which we have put up on the website, the usual cautionary statement. So there's a recording device here, the meeting is being recorded. We'll first start with the company snapshot. So like many of you know, we started in 1985 as an aluminum die casting company, and today we are into 4 key product categories. Apart from die casting, we are into suspension and braking systems where we are market leaders, and also transmissions. And through Maxwell, we've got into advanced electronics. We focus a lot on R&D, which is why we have 5 DSIR approved R&D facilities in India, 2 tech centers in Italy, and a proving ground. We'll talk about the proving ground later. In India, our key customers or the market that we address in a bigger way is 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers, but we also have a presence in 4-wheelers. In Europe, which is Italy and Germany, where our plants are, our key customers are into 4-wheelers. In the last couple of years, we've been into 2-wheelers also in Europe. We have 19 plants in India, 12 in overseas, 11 in Europe, and 1 small plant in Tunisia. Spoken to you about R&D. We are a complete solutions provider, which also we'll cover in greater detail later. And of course, you would have seen our financial numbers, where over the number of years we've grown in terms of our net worth through regularly being profitable, and today we have a deleveraged balance sheet. In India, we have a very clean corporate structure. It's only Endurance Technologies Limited, the listed company, where almost all the operations reside in India. We have 1 subsidiary, which is Maxwell, which we acquired last year. We've increased our stake in Maxwell from 51% to 56%. Similarly, in Germany, we have 1 legal entity, which is the operating entity. In Italy, we have a holding and a subsidiary structure because we've made a number of acquisitions in Italy over the years. So our holding company there is called EOSRL, and then we have multiple companies in Italy which do aluminium die casting, machining of the aluminium die cast parts, and we also have companies in specialty engineering, which is plastic parts, which supplies to automotive as well as to certain other end users. And then of late, we have acquired companies in the 2-wheeler space. So Endurance Adler, Frenotecnica, and New Fren, they produce or they sell parts to the 2-wheeler space. Well, Endurance Adler sells to OEMs as well as to the aftermarket. In the case of Frenotecnica and New Fren, their focus is the aftermarket. I'm in the way, is it? Are you able to see? Yeah, so I spoke to you about the fact that we have 19 plants in India, 11 in Europe, 5 R&D facilities in India. Yeah, we have almost 4,000 employees in India and roughly 850 employees in Europe. The slide tells you about the journey, the fact that our first company was incorporated in FY82. And then over the years, while today we have a very clean corporate structure in India, we've grown by setting up new companies, by setting up a JV with Adler for clutches. But subsequently, these companies in India have been merged into what is today Endurance Technologies Limited. Many of you would know that we had brought in a private equity player in FY07, that was Standard Chartered Private Equity. And then when Standard Chartered exited in FY12, we brought in Actis as another private equity. At that time, we had attempted an IPO, but that didn't sail through. Finally, we did our IPO in 2016, and in 2019, the promoter has done an offer for sale. So today, we are 75% held by the promoter and 25% by the public. The next slide talks about the fact that over the years, we've build a number of plants. That's how we have 19 plants in India and 11 in Europe. And we also build a number of R&D centers. I was telling you about the proving ground. So this is a very unique thing. There's no other auto ancillary company in India which has a proving ground of this scale. So you'll see that this has various surfaces. So there are surfaces which are straight where you can drive the vehicle at very great speed and test the braking. you have these twists and turns, so the maneuverability of the bike. So when we build our suspensions or any other parts, that should not hamper the maneuverability of the bike. So that is something we take care of. We have, you can see here very well, but these are different inclines. So these are flyovers at different inclines. But then that is used to test our clutches. And then there are dust tracks and wet surfaces and moist environments that have been created where we can test the vehicles in various surfaces. So this is very unique to Endurance, and we are able to help the OEM bring the product to market much faster because we have these kind of testing facilities. We are a complete solutions provider. We design and develop our products very much in conjunction with our OEM customers. After that, we test, validate before the manufacturing actually starts. We focus a lot on on-time delivery and after-sales service, which includes being present in the aftermarket. We have a wide range of products. So, like I told you, our legacy products are in 4 categories. We are into aluminum die casting, which also includes alloy wheels, and we are also into suspensions, brakes, where we are among the leading players in the market, and we are also a leading player in clutches. So these are our legacy products. What we've recently added is ABS. So the ABS modulators have got added to the clutches. We've recently added 3-wheeler drive shafts, BMS by acquiring Maxwell. We've added aluminum forgings, which we started as a backward integration project because these front forks, the forgings here, we were earlier importing. And then we decided to build the forgings for our front forks in-house. Now we've got third-party orders for forgings from Hero MotoCorp and from JLR. Our brakes are largely sold to bikes up to 150, 175 cc. We are not so much present in the 200 cc plus market until recently. In 2020, we acquired Grimeca. And after that, we've been selling Grimeca brakes in the 200 cc plus market. Recently, within aluminum castings, we've been doing for automotive application. What we've done in the recent past is we've added customers in the EV space and in the non-auto space, which is generators and cell phone towers. What we plan to do in the future, of course, we have plans for more products, but what we've been speaking about is the dual channel ABS. So the ABS which we currently do is for single channel usage. We are on course to very soon deliver a dual channel ABS. Our drive shaft is currently used for 3-wheeler applications. We have plans for moving into the 4-wheeler applications as well. Our clutches are largely for the sub 200 cc segment. Through Adler's APTC technology, we plan to penetrate the 200 cc plus segment. Embedded electronics, ABS and BMS has embedded electronics, so we've made our first steps into embedded electronics, and a lot of the parts in future vehicles will have more and more of embedded electronics, and we plan to be in that space. One such electronic parts is the suspensions, where we are a leader in the country, but we are not yet into embedded electronics and suspensions. So this is the way ahead. Of course, when we look at the future, we would plan to launch more products. It could come by way of doing technology tie-ups, it could come by way of doing M&A, or it could come by way of hiring resources in-house, which would then build the technologies. This gives us graphically where we are in our 4 products. So most of you will be familiar of where our castings, suspensions, brakes and clutches, the different parts that we do. Similarly in Europe, we've told in this slide what we do in terms of structural body parts, engine parts, EV parts and transmission parts. So these are aluminum die casting, which have been after the casting process, we do a machining process. And you know that in Endurance Europe, we are a key part of their lightweighting and hybrid and EV plans, which is why we have very sizable orders, which we normally put into our quarterly presentations. Yeah, I told you in Europe also we are going into the 2-wheeler space, having acquired Freno-Technica and New Frame. So these are the parts that we do there, which are largely into brake systems and friction parts for transmission. So a lot of you have concerns about what when there is more electrification in the market, when more and more EV parts are launched, what happens to our parts. So this is the slide where we're trying to show that. So in aluminum die casting, which is 53% of our consolidated sales, because in Europe a lot of bulk of our sales is into aluminum die casting. Yeah, it is relevant. These products, including alloy wheels, are relevant for ICE, the BEVs, as well as the hybrid vehicles. We've done an analysis in India on how much aluminum die casting parts are likely to be used in different models of EVs as they are launched, vis-a-vis what is the extent of usage in ICE vehicles. So what we have noted is that while the weight of the EV-related aluminum die casting parts would come down, the number are expected to be more, and therefore we are expecting to see comparable value. So what we are seeing right now is that on a like-to-like basis for the same kind of power in a vehicle, we are seeing like-to-like value with more number of parts and lesser weight. In suspensions, which is 28% of our consolidated sales, it's relevant for all three types. Same with brakes. Clutches, which is 5% of our sales, clutches would not be required in EVs. They would be required in hybrids and ICEs. What is important to note is that 80% of this 5% for us it goes into motorcycles, and we are seeing very slow pace of electrification in motorcycles. The remaining 20% of these sales go to three-wheelers, where we are seeing very rapid electrification. So we can say that the product at risk is transmission, whether it happens at a slow pace as in motorcycles or at a fast pace in three-wheelers. What we brought in newly is the BMS, which is not required in an ICE but is required in an EV, and the drive shaft, which is required in all three product categories. We have not shown here the fact that we are also doing third-party sales of forgings, which are required in all three categories.
Sorry, when you say aluminum die casting, all the products that you are doing in aluminum die casting are all used both in ICE and EV. It's not just that, just because it's aluminum die casting and you're doing it's classified as imports. Whatever products you are manufacturing today are used in both cases.
Yeah, but the nature of the parts would be different. For instance, over here, the
size
engine
and shape
parts,
would be
the
different.
cam carrier will not be there in a BEV. But then there would be stator housing or covers or the oil modules and transmission housing.
So some of those revenues would still be at risk, right? Some of the parts in LM die casting which are not used.
Yeah.
So what is the component of that?
So we believe that the value will remain the same. So when an ICE goes out and an EV comes in, we believe that
the
the
new
value
products it should ideally be there.
yes. Yeah. In terms of market share, like I told you, we are a leading player in suspensions and brakes. Our front fork market share is 41%. This has been internally calculated. We know the number of vehicles sold in the market or produced in the market, and we know how many parts we supply. So for front forks, it's 41%. For rear shocks, it is 36% of all vehicles. For disc brake systems, it is 34% of the vehicle category where disc brakes are used. We are not counting the 100 cc's where the drum brakes are used. In brake discs, we are 52% of the market where disc brakes are used. And in clutches, we are 15% of the total motorcycle market, because in scooters, you don't require clutches. In castings, we don't try and calculate a market share because it's very complex to try and do that. And therefore, we are not stating the percentages for die casting in India and in Europe. But we are among the key players in Europe, and in India, we are the leader. In terms of the capacities that we have, nobody else has the kind of capacities that we have. This slide tells us that from FY13 to FY23, while the two-wheeler industry has grown 2.1% in volume terms, three-wheeler industry in India has grown 0.2% in volume terms, and in Europe the CAGR has been negative in a 10-year period. But our standalone sales has grown at a CAGR of 9.5%. Our consolidated sales have also grown at almost 9%. Yeah, we've continued to be profitable. Our net debt to equity is now negative. And this shows that while we have a lot of concentration on players like Bajaj and the Volkswagen Group, but then overall, if I count the number of customers with 100 crores and more turnover, in 2010 it used to be 5 and today it is 11. I'll not go in detail into the financials because you're well aware probably. And in terms of the headcount, I told you that we are more than 4,500 employees now in the group. This talks about the European business, where I told you about the fact that we are more into four-wheelers in Europe, but we also have our aftermarket presence in two-wheelers. It's been a growing presence there, despite the CAGR of the new car registrations being negative in Europe. Aftermarket is a very key area. In fact, while we don't give any targets as to what we plan to do in four-wheelers or in suspensions and things like that, but in the case of aftermarket, we've said that in FY26, our target is to reach 10% of standalone sales. Today, it's roughly 6 to 7% of standalone sales in different quarters is aftermarket. On a consolidated sales basis, 5% of our sales is aftermarket. In aftermarket, and this is just the Indian aftermarket that's being covered in this slide. What we do through Freno-Technica and Newfield is not covered here. In the Indian aftermarket, 65% of our sales is in India, 14% is in countries outside India, within Asia, 8% in Africa, and 13% in Latin America. So we are into 32 countries in exports, and we keep adding countries. We've got an extensive network of distributors, and we have 69 full-time employees working only on the aftermarket sales. Here we've tried to show the strategy for growth. There are multiple strategies at play. What we must speak about is that in existing products, we try and approach more and more customers. We try to do cross-selling, and we try to go up the technology ladder. Like I've told you, the 200cc plus, we were not there in brakes, and then now we are there in brakes. In clutches, we are not there, but we plan to do it. So that's what we plan to do as a strategy in existing products. And then there would be new product introductions. It could come through technology alliances, it could come through M&A, or it could come through internal product development. Aftermarket is a key growth area for us, and also transition to EVs, which is how, through BMS and through other electronic products and other products, we want to be part of the global transition to EVs. These are our key focus areas. Of course, ESG, all of this is very important to sustain our businesses and for us to keep growing in terms of launching new products, knowing the stated and the unstated requirements of not only the OEMs but also the two-wheeler riders. So that's where technology and R&D comes into play. We have to keep our operations tight and all of this, and of course focus a lot on people, and all of this would lead to and is leading to our profitable, sustainable, and what we call our mantra is faster than industry growth. Our core values are customer centricity, integrity, transparency, teamwork, and innovation. This talks about our safety first culture, which we have strengthened over the years. The culture is to not tolerate any safety, any established practice of safety not being followed is not tolerated, and that is not only applicable for our workers but also for our contract workers, and we spread the same message at our vendor facilities as well. In terms of people, we focus on a culture of result orientation and continuous improvement. We focus a lot on DIE, which is diversity, inclusion, and equality, and to make sure that our people are kind of growing in terms of capabilities. Sustainability, our key focus areas are carbon neutrality, water savings, and zero waste to landfill. And this is what we've achieved in terms of sustainability. So this presentation is there on our website. In CSR, these are our focus areas: education, healthcare, sanitation, environment, and livelihoods. And we do a lot of work in villages in and around Aurangabad and in and around other locations where we are present. This is a listing of our awards and accreditations. So Deloitte nominated or selected us as one of the best managed companies in 2022. That's it. So any further details, you can look it up. So we've recently updated and launched this on our website. Sorry. Every quarter we also put up a presentation on the quarterly results.
So in the die casting business, like we are a big player, and there's a competition. And how do we differentiate ourselves in terms of process and technology? Can you talk something on that?
Well, first of all, competition is everywhere. It's not only die casting; it's everywhere.
Yeah,
It's how do you approach to your customers. See, we've got our in-house R&D, and we do a lot of work for the OEMs. In the sense, we do the simulation flow, this metal flow and everything that we do a simulation on through a magma basis. This gives us an advantage of going ahead to explain whether the design and build to print or whatever the drawings we get, how well can that be manufactured. The second point is that we participate along with the customers of improvising the casting construction in case there are some places where we can save on weights by changing some dimensions and all, without affecting the total overall construction of that part which is required by the OEM. So, and that's one. Then a lot of process improvements and process technologies that we are doing is, first of all, we're trying to robotize all the heavy castings, not through manual operations, robotize the extraction of all the castings. And then we're trying to look into those parts where, high-end parts where a lot of machining is required. So we offer them fully finished castings rather than giving as cast components to them. For example, in GetTrack, we give fully machine castings. In India, to our customers also, we give fully machine castings. Very recently, in case of Harley Davidson and Triumph, there also we're giving fully machine casting. So that's the service that we're offering, so that the parts can go directly onto the engine rather than a step forward where the customers are also doing some machining work. That not only saves them investment, but also saves them the bother of holding inventories and everything. They can go directly online for the parts that we supply to them. So this is one of the key differentiators.
okay.
In one of the charts you mentioned about how we have grown standalone income at about 9.5% versus industry volume growth of about 2.1% in the last 10 years. Now that we are at about a third to about 50% market share across most of the products, and in at least standalone, the export is not a large revenue pie at this point of time, maybe about 4-5% of the standalone income. How does the standalone income from here, or standalone revenues from here, can continue to grow faster than the industry number now that we are almost a meaningful market share across the product, except for clutches, which anyways under EV, they might not be needed. And again, given that still even at this point of time, we derive only probably about 16 to 17%, or not even probably 10 to 12% revenue, which is X two-wheeler and three-wheeler at this point of time. Particularly standalone, I'm not saying consolidated, only in standalone.
So that's a good question. First, let me explain. This 40 to 50% of market share which you are saying, right, is of that particular product vertical. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm on that product vertical for all my customers. For example, in brakes, I'm a dominant player for Bajaj Auto, for Honda, for Royal Enfield. I'm a dominant player. But I'm for TVS. But am I as dominant in other customers, right? So I find space, upward space where I can crawl and find more room over there. So that will increase my revenues. Irrespective whether the number of vehicles being produced moves up or not, I still see a clear value add for myself in revenue.
So then if you can, let's say for example, disc brakes, where you have 52% market share in the given product category. What is the product category to the market ratio? Is the market within each of these products still yet to be tapped by you, which is very large, versus what product categories you have included in this market share? I just want to understand in the denominator, whatever you have included in this number, what is the market for? So, for example, let's say 125cc, you might be in X product, but not there in Y and Z. What is that Y and Z as a times of X?
When we've calculated the market share for suspensions, we've taken the entire two-wheeler market in the denominator.
Okay.
When we've taken the market share for brakes, we've taken in the denominator all two-wheelers which use this.
Which use hydraulic brake systems. Because you see that a large number of lower cc bikes, the commuter bikes, are using drum brakes, a mechanical brake, not hydraulic brake. So we've taken on the denominator only those where hydraulic brakes are used.
And as per the norms, as and when they get implemented, more and more vehicles shift from, let's say, drum to disc. You have actually first mover advantage.
Yes.
If they move to ABS or CBS, you have a first mover advantage.
So if you see what has happened in the last 2 years, the hydraulic brake system which came into play because of regulatory requirements for 125cc and below for CBS and all that they were all hydraulic brake systems. People tried to put a mechanical arrangement over there that didn't really work, and everybody is converted to the CBS as hydraulic brake systems. That's where we got the advantage, and our expansion on brake system has been more than double. From if I remember correctly, from 3.75 we are now at 5.75 lakh brake systems per month, and on disc we are somewhere around 6.75 lakhs per month. And if I put that in millions, I think it's 8.2 and
8.1 million
8.1 million per annum. So that's a huge upside that we've already captured. Those orders have already inflowed to us. Now, likewise, if the two-wheeler industry, all of it comes to hydraulic brakes as a regulatory requirement, then what you said is correct. We stand a first mover's choice. Or since we are holding a very dominant position, right? I don't see no reason why all those orders will not come to us.
And in the four-wheeler, the share that we have, I think it's about 7% or something like that in standalone, right? In the overall revenue. That would be largely Hyundai and Kia, or is there anybody else in that?
Hyundai, Kia, Tata,
and Mahindra.
Mahindra.
But who would be the largest contributor to that revenue?
Right now it is Kia. No?
Hyundai, Kia.
Hyundai,
We see it
Kia,
in one bucket.
We see it as one bucket.
Any talks with Maruti, sir?
Maruti, we are supplying one part through SFL.
Sundaram Fasteners.
Sundaram Fasteners. We are supplying, you can say we are tier 2 to Maruti.
And
And
any
the oil
plans?
pan is that.
Oil pan pehle hota tha. Now they've closed that one, which we used to do from Bangladesh, but yes.
But any plans to increase the product category to four-wheeler? Since we are eyeing to grow, in four-wheeler India space. So.
See, we are not going to say no to no business which flows our way, which makes sense to our business model. If I'm already doing large castings for, let's say, Tatas and Mahindras and Kia, if we make an effort and we get orders from Maruti, we are not going to say no to that.
See, in terms of skill sets, whether it is India or Europe, we have the skill sets to do large and complex castings. We have the ability to invest. Large castings require more investments. We have the ability to invest. So we are going to go after business.
And in this four-wheeler will be largely die-casting products. They will be only die-casting products, right?
Presently, yes. Only
And whatever we have in the global market in terms of aluminum die-casting, high pressure, low pressure, everything, is that replicable here in India? Do we use in India also those kind of products?
See, the European OEMs have not been doing too well in India. So we don't see the volumes.
For example, Hyundai or Tata or Mahindra would have those kind of products in their usage?
Yeah, so transmission casings and covers and all these are all part of engine components. So what they do over there, the size and configuration would be different. The size of the
But
casting.
we can replicate if we want to add more products in India. Can that know-how be used for the launching new products in India?
Yes, why not? That's what. See, there are two entities. Both are endurance. One is sitting in Europe. One is sitting over here. So if I've got to leverage their technical capabilities to India, that's not a point of discussion at all. I can get that over here within no time. And for your information, we keep on exchanging a lot of technical and improvement details with each other, and our R&Ds are engaged quite intensively to look into all the new things that we can do over here in India.
So let's say versus about, I'm just analyzing first quarter numbers. So let's say versus about 500 to 550 crore number that probably will end up doing this year. What is the size of the market, including the components which we do overseas, which can be done in India? I just want to understand, beyond that 9.5% growth that you have done based on two-wheelers in the last 10 years, can the delta be higher if you can do more of four-wheelers and that by and of course aftermarket you have highlighted that by
It's a difficult question because it's again trying to calculate a market share. Like I told you in castings, calculating the market share we found it very difficult. It's a very fragmented market. There are smaller castings, larger castings, smaller we don't want to do.
Right.
So
and large you would identify what the size of the component would be, what weight.
It's not a question of component weight, right? It's the tonnage of machines, right? From let's say 900 to 2,500 ton machines.
The pressing.
the pressure.
The die casting machines. Right? So it's mainly like lower castings we don't do. It depends where exactly do you want to position yourself. Like in motorcycles, we do crankcases, covers, we do engine blocks and so on. Likewise, in four-wheelers, we do transmission covers and crankcases over there on four-wheelers. Now, similar are the components which may be being done in Europe, but for different cars and different applications.
But would you hazard at least a guess that this could be a fairly large market versus, or it could be equivalent size of the market versus what we do in two-wheelers today, or it could be even larger?
What the die casting business?
Huh.
It can be larger because the sizes of the castings are much bigger. I'm talking about in terms of tonnage, total tonnage.
In terms of business, we've been talking of potentially entering newer segments. Maxwell was one such foray, but it's in terms of scale, while we have an order book of 300 plus crores, per year revenues aren't really that high at this point in time. Is there anything else you're looking forward to in terms of expansion? Because at one point we looked at tires, we didn't go through, but any other segmental new foray altogether to
See, new foray is something that has to fit into our business model.
Sure.
If you tell me that tomorrow I'm going to do plastics, my answer is no. If you tell me to do seats and covers, my answer is no. Anything which fits into our business model. For example, wire-braided hoses. That was an import substitution which had not only helped us, but also helped our OEMs. And that was probably a perfect choice, because I don't have to wait for external market. My captive consumption is so high that I can justify that investment.
Sure.
Likewise in aluminium forging. So that's a product by itself. I can sell that as a product to my to more OEMs to market, and I can use that for captive consumption. So it's a fitment to my business model which is more important. So getting into new products, we are always there to explore opportunities which come our way, but as long as it makes sense to our business model. For example, BMS, you took that example of BMS. Now, why that fits into my business model? On one hand, you may say I'm doing only hydraulic components and large casting components. It fits in my business model because tomorrow, when you see the technology moving ahead, it will require embedded electronics, and that's where it fits into my model. If tomorrow all the suspension are converted to electronic suspension, if not all, at least the high-end bike, I should not be in a position where I don't understand this language of embedded electronics. Today, we have got Maxwell, where a large amount of people are experts in not only writing configuration and algorithms, but they also understand what is electronics. So embedded electronics is something that we got into because our products are likely to move ahead in technology with electronics.
In terms of ownership, we I think added 5% more and took it to 56%. Is there a roadmap to further increase our stake in Maxwell?
Yes, so
Right up to 100%.
right up to
Right up to 100.
It was, when we bought 51%, we knew we were going to 100% in 5 years. So now from 56 to 100% in 4 years.
Sure. One would have thought it would have been a little bit more accelerated. Just curious, why just 5% in 1 year?
So Akhil and Alex have
Yeah.
a lot of expertise, and we wanted their skin in the game for this 5 years. Because see, EVs is not happening overnight, and the market for Maxwell will mature only when the markets for EVs mature. And there are plans to launch newer products in embedded electronics. So we didn't want to lose whatever momentum has been created over the years by Alex specifically, who is a technical expert, and Akhil, who understands software and has built the business along with Alex. So we didn't want that momentum to be lost.
Sure.
And there's a fair degree of variability in the pay for the remaining share, depending on the success of the business.
So this was on the fixed, we had a fixed amount for this 5%.
No,
And
we
after
had a
that?
fixed amount for 51%. After
Sure.
that, it has been
Oh, okay.
it's variable and more back-ended.
Sure. In terms of post the FAME change, we've seen a slight slowdown. So it's actually the mix has changed. So the TVSs have done extremely well in this. You're seeing Bajaj incrementally do better, but you're seeing Hero, who's been our customer, Hero Electric, our customer sales slightly come off. So in terms of the outlook for Maxwell, do you see that being impacted by the change in FAME norms?
So we have to try and be in more and more OEMs. Now, with the change in FAME norms or because of the penalties imposed on people like Hero
Right.
Electric, they could have, individual OEMs could have their
Right.
own difficulties. So we have to try and diversify, which we've done to an extent. Hero MotoCorp is our largest customer, provided the Vida succeeds the way Hero has planned it to succeed. Hero Electric is large, Torque and Ampere. These are our 4 large
Right.
customers in India. And then we have smaller customers in Europe, where the volumes are less, but the margins are significantly higher.
Are we on the Chetak BMS?
No.
No.
And in this, what we've seen in the ICE market is that we are able to penetrate the market when there are more and more model launches, because that's where you get to kind of each time quote, squeeze in and demonstrate your product superiority or your price competitiveness and things like that. Similarly, when Bajaj launches more and more models, we believe we should be able to get into BMS for them.
Sure.
So what is the opportunity for us in European two-wheelers? This is the new area which we have entered. So something on that, if you can.
So the motorcycle market in Europe is not very large,
Yeah.
but the e-bikes market is expanding a lot because of this consciousness about sustainability and protecting the nature and things like that. So these companies, Frenotecnica and Newfren, they have very popular brands in the aftermarket when it comes to braking, transmission parts, and friction material. So we plan to leverage that. Wherever possible, we will be also supplying from India. And some of our parts from India, which Brenta or Frenotecnica or Newfren does not address today, we can penetrate that market also from India.
Any percentage contribution? It must be very small, insignificant.
See, right now they are around 5-6% of the Europe sales is two-wheelers already. So now when we chip in more, but then see, we plan to fire on all cylinders. When there is more and more casting sales, again in percentage terms, this might stay at 5%. But then we are looking at growth in this market.
So, this is a very common question that everybody would like to know. What should be the margin trajectory going ahead? Because our raw material at one point they are softer. Energy prices have come off from the peak. So our margins are not obviously fully recovered. So how do we see that shaping
In
up
the
in coming
past,
quarters?
when metal prices were softer and Europe did not suffer from high energy costs, yeah, at that time our steady state in India was 14 and quarter, and in Europe it was 17 and a half, 18, that range. Yeah, so from there we dipped significantly. We dipped to 11 in both geographies, and now we are recovering. So now that has multiple reasons for the recovery. One is the metal prices are softening. Second is we are doing more and more value-added products. Yeah, we are addressing the market for larger vehicles. All that is contributing to some improvement in margins. There will be more improvement in margins when players like Hero and Honda, either their volumes go up because we have some of the newer plants which are dedicated to these customers. Yeah. The other approach that we are taking is we are putting in new orders, whether say Ather or Okinawa and things like that. These new orders we are putting into these low capacity utilization plants. So we expect these plants, which are currently pulling down the overall margins, to again shrink up the margin.
This quarter we had got 34 crore rupees of incentives from Maharashtra government. You mentioned on the call that this should continue for a few more quarters and taper down
Our
from
trend
FY25.
has been that it is around 34 crores,
Right.
a little more than 30 crores in Q1 and Q2.
Okay.
And then it stops there. For Q3 and Q4, we don't record any incentives because we are allowed to record the incentives basis the quantum of sales we make in the state of Maharashtra.
Right.
Yeah, so we do a lot of sales in the state of
Right.
Maharashtra, and therefore we are able to exhaust the entire booking in Q1 and Q2.
Oh, okay. And this would continue in FY25?
The same. So this is under the 2013 scheme, and then the government has also launched the 2019 scheme. So talking of the 2013 scheme, we have one more year of full recording, which is a little more than 60 crores, could be around 65 crores, which should be in FY25. And then from FY26 onwards, there will be a trickle down effect because this 65 crores, it looks at almost the 90% of the incentive. The remaining 10% of the incentive we are supposed to do after some GST formalities.
Sure.
So that will have some runoff effect after 65 crores in FY25. It will be smaller values of maybe 10, 12 crores in the next 3, 4 years. That's talking about the 2013 scheme. Now coming to the 2019 scheme, where we will be doing our application now. You're supposed to spend capex between FY19 and 22, 23. Yeah, all the capex that you spend between FY19 and FY23 in these backward regions, you're supposed to collate, talk about your employment record in those backward regions, and submit your applications. So that application will go now. So there the basic threshold was 350 crores. So you have to spend 350 crores in that region. You spend much more than that. So whatever we spend, we expect to get back.
Sure.
So the 60, 65 crores or a little higher will continue for a number of years.
Sure. And that scheme will also run for 5 years. So potentially this continues
It runs for 7 years.
7 years.
So what we are recording right now, 65 crores, it is a 7-year. So
Yeah.
we've run it for 5 years now. So another
Right.
2 years. So this year and the next year, FY25, that 7 years will end. Similarly, the FY19 scheme will have 60, 65 crores of revenue coming in for 7 years.
In your international business, the capex intensity is almost about 10 to 12% of the revenue each year, and in a fairly highly volatile environment. Is there any way that capex intensity can come down, or we need to keep investing as
We
the
need
model
to keep-
changes? Keep happening.
So the die casting, you do need to keep changing the asset, but in machining, in machining, we have to invest more when you wait for new models. So right now we won a lot of new orders in EVs and hybrids, due to which in machining we are doing a lot of investment. And this year, unlike the 30-35 million investment that you've seen in previous year, this year we've given a line of sight of 60 million.
60, no?
Yes.
60.
But at least for near to medium term, that capex intensity will remain about anywhere between 10 to 12% of your revenues will keep spending on capex.
Yes, 10 to 12% is that will be required.
Because in which case your depreciation to sales will also continue to remain almost about fairly high single digit or a double digit number.
Yes, what we are expecting
And
to
unless
work
in
in
that business you reach that
Sorry.
18-19% kind of
yeah,
EBITDA
what we are
margins.
expecting to work in our favor is that the EV models where we have penetrated, those models are expected to last for a longer period of time. Reason being that, like in India, we have BS6 and so on. In Europe also, we have had this Euro 1 and so on going on. So the emission norms have been getting tighter, which meant that there was a lot of model changes happening at the OEM's end. Now with EVs, we expect that to stabilize a little bit. So we'll be able to use our capex for a longer period.
So that's actually between ICE and EV, that's one of the fundamental changes which happen in terms of your own capex intensity.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just on this question, in terms of depreciation, we are currently at around 5% of revenues. Do you see that going to double digit? Did I catch that correctly?
In Europe, temporarily. No, double digit. I mean, we've not done the calculation that it should double from 5 to 10%. But yeah, in Europe, there would be higher depreciation.
Sure.
Any new product category that you are looking at currently? We are in suspension, braking, and also any new product category?
Well, we've already answered that question that any new category of model or any product has to fit into our business model.
Yeah, that's what.
So that way, whatever comes our way as an opportunity and we find it a perfect fit, we'll not shy away from taking that investment or taking.
No, but my question was, have we identified something that we are working on that
It will be difficult for me to answer that question.
So what we have given line of sight already is about dual channel ABS. It's about 4-wheeler drive shafts. So these are things which we have in mind about electronic suspensions. So these are extensions of our products which we've given line of sight. Something which we've not spoken about, we would not like to speak.
Okay.
So you mentioned about drive shaft, electronic suspensions, and the third product that you mentioned.
Dual channel ABS.
The technology we got from BWI, didn't it include dual channel ABS?
Yes, we are doing it with
We are doing it with BWI.
Okay.
The arrangement was like that only, single channel and dual channel both. The contract itself says that.
But you need a customer also to co-develop, right? Because on Indian conditions, the same ABS which is being used in Harley in US doesn't work here.
Sure.
So we got Bajaj and Royal Enfield for their ABSs. We've done their single channel. It's been demonstrated. We become suppliers.
Sure.
Now we're working with the customer to do a dual channel. And our capacities have also got fully utilized in this industry. 400,000
Sure.
units per annum. That capacity is fully utilized now. It's being increased very soon to 600,000.
In Maxwell, we do everything, right from designing to manufacturing of the BMS, or
No.
we do only the designing and
Yeah, so Maxwell owns or has developed the algorithm, and currently manufacturing is outsourced.
okay.
And in endurance, we are putting up a surface mounting technology line. And once that line comes up,
Sorry, where is this being done?
Aurangabad.
Location?
Aurangabad.
Aurangabad.
then we'll be doing our own manufacturing, or at least partially. And the total volumes that Maxwell will be selling, it will not be catered fully by endurance. Gradually, we'll increase our lines.
Just for understanding, you mentioned embedded electronics. So, what are the other systems that you all could design?
See, right now the flagship component is BMS,
Right.
and that's where we are focusing on.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can have BMS on storage systems and other things where algorithms are defined to run a particular product. The third thing is the ECU of the brakes. That
Right.
itself can be done. So we'll be slowly graduating with it.
Won't you, BWI already be providing those algorithms?
For ABS,
For
yes.
ABS, yes.
But that would have been already internalized, right?
No, there are two things. One is the manufacturing part of it, where you don't need the algorithms.
Right.
You need only a separate set of files which electronically embed all the components.
Sure.
Second thing is the algorithms. That means how the ABS or how the PCB that you have set up behaves to that particular software. Okay, so there are certain engineering inputs which go into writing of the software. Okay, then all those engineering inputs, the software that has been written has to actually integrate with the vehicle.
Right. With the ECU also.
For the behavior of the vehicle is
Right.
actually converted into an electronic language,
Right.
which is actually converted into a mechanical operation.
Sure.
Like for example, a wheel speed sensor converts the speed and the wheel movement or the wheel jams to
Sure.
the ECU. The ECU further dictates, okay, now the pressure is going to be released or increased. It's something like that.
Okay, I was looking at Akhil's statement, so we've disclosed what next, but then Maxwell is working on a few other products on the electronics.
Not just BMS systems.
No, BMS is their first product.
Right. There are other products.
There are other products that they are working on.
Sure.
Of this 307 crores of order intake in India, how much was EV order intake from India?
In Q1?
Yeah, in Q1.
No, in Q1 we didn't.
We didn't have any new orders.
Okay.
In Q2, HMCL, there was in Q2 there's something, we've in fact disclosed it, but that's it's an important breakthrough because getting any new EV customer is important. So HMSI came in August.
Okay.
I addressed this question in Q1 call also, the 24.1 billion worth of orders which are there for a standalone business. What is the probability of them cannibalizing the existing, work that we are doing for the same OEM? Maybe a facelift or a product which is competing with somebody else, for which also we are doing some business in the same category of product. How much is the chances of this 24.1 billion cannibalizing the existing India revenue which are there?
See, the 24.1 is, like Mr. Jain said on the call, these are new orders.
Right.
So we were not serving that model and we are now going to serve that model. Now,
But when you say this, does it mean that, let's say, a 125cc ABC bike is being relaunched as 125cc maybe BCD and you got that order, does this classify
No,
that you are
then that's a replacement.
That's not a
That's a
replacement.
If the OEM itself has declared that
Ah.
DCF,
Ah.
DEF is a replacement of ABC,
Okay, so
then
that's
it's a
not
replacement.
included. Okay.
But suppose I have got for a Suzuki scooter,
Ah.
a front fork order, which I'm calling a new order.
Ah.
And in the past, if I have been doing a front fork for the Activa.
Right.
Yeah.
That is okay.
Now I don't know how much
Of
of
course.
Activa will get
Of
cannibalized
course.
because Suzuki
Right,
has certain
right.
brands.
Okay. Got it.
I think it should come from there because there are calls. Oh, that's it.
And once you start doing this, production or circuit responding also for Maxwell, how much does the value, go up by? I mean, are these like box builds that you would provide straight to the OEM, which can be like a plug and play for them in the new vehicles?
Yeah, so that is something that we'll be supplying to Maxwell,
Ah.
not to OEMs directly.
Okay, so ETL will supply this to Maxwell, and their algorithms in this or their softwares in this, and then you finally put it onto the OEM.
And Maxwell will sell it to the OEM.
Maxwell will sell
Yeah, Maxwell will sell it to the
See, the BMS board is a small electronic printed
Right.
circuit board
Right.
with various chips and transistors
Right,
and things
right.
like that. Now, the chips which has very random, simple software
Right.
that we allow the manufacturing partner to put in because it's not proprietary.
Right.
So right now, the printed circuit board then comes to Maxwell's office. I can't call it a plant. Yeah, and then that's where they put in the proprietary software, do the testings, the end of line testing, and then ship it to the customers.
And so, for example, where I'm coming from is that some of these EMS guys who serve to auto OEM industry, their claim about 16-17% margins only when they are not doing algorithms as a part of that. But when we do this, the whole product plus the algo, the margins can be significantly higher. Is that assumption correct? Or at least 13-14% they are also claiming, the EMS guys who don't actually do the algorithm part. For some of the not the BMS, but some of the other auto components where
Sorry, I got distracted.
sorry, some of the EMS guys who provide auto components, in box build, phase or manner, they claim to have about 13-14%, but that's not BMS. That's something else. Other products that they provide, where a lot of electronics are used, and their margins are anywhere between 13 to 15%.
My understanding of EMS is what Endurance is going to do by setting up a
But when I'm
surface
saying
mounted
you plus
technology.
Maxwell put together, then could be very high margin business, including the manufacturing margins also, which will be in standalone.
That's why we are doing this backward
And
integration.
Algo margins will be in Maxwell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us today. We have a short presentation. It's there on the website, but I thought I'd run it past all of you so that will take the first 10 minutes, and then Mr. Gyani and I can answer your questions. So we'll begin with the usual cautionary statement. And we are talking about our company, which started in 1985 as an aluminum die casting supplier to Bajaj Auto. We started with one plant in Aurangabad. Today we are the largest aluminum die casting company in India, and our other key products are suspensions, transmissions and braking systems. The die casting we do for two-wheelers as well as four-wheelers in India and for four-wheelers in Europe. And the other three products, suspension, transmission and braking, we are largely only in India and only for two-wheelers and three-wheelers. We have 19 plants in India and 12 overseas. We have 5 R&D facilities in India, 2 tech centers in Italy. And with our R&D efforts, we have roughly 325 people working on R&D. We've generated 36 patents and 33 design registrations. In India, we have a very clean corporate structure with the listed company Endurance Technologies Limited housing almost all the operations. The only operations outside of Endurance are in Maxwell. This is the company we acquired last year, and today we hold 56% in Maxwell with a line of sight to achieve 100% shareholding. In Germany also we have a clean corporate structure with all the plants being housed in the single operating entity. In Italy we have a SPV structure where the Endurance Overseas SRL is the holding company which has done a number of acquisitions over the years. But all these companies apart from Maxwell are 100% owned by Endurance. Yeah, like I said, we have 19 plants in India, 5 R&D facilities in India, 11 plants in Europe, 2 technical centers in Europe, and then we have a test track in India. We have a total of 4,800 roughly employees. This talks about our journey, the fact that we established 2 or 3 different legal entities in India, and then subsequently we've merged it into one legal entity, which is Endurance Technologies Limited. Many of you would know that we first brought in a private equity player in FY07, that was Standard Chartered Private Equity. And then when Standard Chartered wanted an exit, we brought in Actis. We had attempted an IPO around this time in FY11, FY12. But then since the IPO market was not very conducive at that time, we replaced Standard Chartered Private Equity with Actis Private Equity. Finally, in FY17, in late 2016, we did our IPO, and in FY19, we did the promoter diluted his stake to 75%. This tells us about the journey, the fact that we have 19 plants and 11 plants in India respectively. This tells us when different plants were set up, also our 5 R&D centers. So it's been a long journey from FY86. And today our latest facilities in FY23 are captured here, which is the drive shaft plant and the drive shaft R&D, and also the alloy wheel, which is an expanded facility in Chakan. It also tells us about the various collaborations that we've done. For instance, the ABS, we did a collaboration in FY17 with BWI. This is the unique proving ground or test track that we have in Aurangabad. It's spread over 29 acres. No other auto ancillary company has a test track which is as extensive as this one. For 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers primarily, we are able to test all our products. We sometimes also offer the test track to OEMs when they want to test their own products. But otherwise, we try and test our own products on this. We have trained riders who are able to communicate with riders of the OEMs and give us feedback on what the actual feel is when they are using a brake or riding with a vehicle with a new kind of suspension that our R&D team would have developed. We are a complete solutions provider. It starts by designing and developing the part in conjunction with the OEMs and then testing and validating it before actually starting to manufacture. Our focus is on 100% on-time delivery for the customer and also on after-sales service, which includes being present in the aftermarket for the end user. In terms of our range of products, our legacy products, like I told you earlier, it's like 4 legacy products: aluminum die casting, suspensions, which is front forks and shock absorbers, brakes, which is the entire brake assembly, which includes the disc brake, the caliper assembly, and everything that a 2-wheeler brake or a 3-wheeler brake requires. In die casting, we also do alloy wheels, and we also do clutches for 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers. So these are our legacy products. What we've recently added is firstly the ABS modulator. So for 2-wheelers, we do ABS. You check is Yeah, so we were talking about this presentation is already uploaded on our website. We were talking about the fact that we have 4 legacy products: aluminum die casting, including alloy wheels, suspensions, brakes, and clutches. Our recently added products are ABS modulators, 3-wheeler drive shafts, BMS. So we've acquired Maxwell, which is into the embedded electronic space, which includes BMS. Aluminum forgings is something we started as a backward integration project, but now we are supplying to third parties as well. We've got orders from Hero MotoCorp and from JLR. And brakes, we have hitherto been doing brakes for up to less than 200cc vehicles, but now for 200cc plus vehicles also, we are able to supply brakes. This happened after our acquisition of Grimeca, which we did in FY20. So Grimeca is an Italian brakes company. And finally, our aluminum die casting, which we were using for automotive applications, now is also finding usage in non-auto applications. When we talk of future products, we mentioned about the ABS. So this two-wheeler ABS, which we have already launched, it's been 2 years since we launched the product in the market. Now we'll be going into a dual channel ABS. We also plan to do our three-wheeler drive shaft is functional. I mean, we are supplying to Bajaj, and we have a couple of other orders also for three-wheeler drive shaft. We will also be doing four-wheeler drive shaft in the future. Our clutches, like our brakes, was primarily aimed at sub 200cc market, but we are now supplying brakes for over 200cc also. Similarly, our clutches are also primarily being supplied to sub 200cc market. Going forward, using Adler's APTC technology, we would be supplying clutches for the 200cc plus market also. BMS and ABS, both of these are embedded electronic products. ABS we are doing ourselves through BWI technology. BMS we've acquired Maxwell, which has the algorithms for this electronic product. Similarly, we'll be doing other embedded electronic products also. So our electronics engineers, whether they are in Endurance or in Maxwell, they are planning and we will launch newer products in embedded electronics space. One such product would be the electronic suspension, where there is a market in the 200cc plus motorcycle space. There is room to launch an electronic suspension. This slide tells you graphically where our different products are going. Similarly, for the European market, where in aluminum die casting, the machined parts for aluminum die casting, it could go as a structural or a body part, or it could go as an engine part, it could go as a transmission part, and there are certain EV specific parts. Through our new acquisitions in Europe, namely Frenotecnica and New Fren, we have made a presence for ourselves in the European aftermarket for two-wheelers. So in India, we are primarily, a large part of our sales goes for two-wheelers and three-wheelers, and a small part of our sales goes for four-wheelers. In Europe, a large part of our sales is into four-wheelers. So all large companies like Volkswagen Group, which includes Audi, Porsche, Stellantis, which includes Fiat, and BMW, Daimler, all these large OEMs in Europe are our customers in the four-wheeler space. We are establishing a small two-wheeler market, component market in Europe, primarily aimed at the aftermarket. Now, a lot of you would have concerns as to whether our products are relevant if there is rapid electrification in the market. So for us, our aluminum die casting suspension brakes, these products which comprise 95% of our consolidated sales, for us it is relevant whether there is slow electrification or fast electrification. Our market size is expected to remain the same. The addressable market is expected to remain the same. In the case of transmission, which is 5% of our sales, if there is full electrification, then the clutches will not be required. So that portion of the market is at risk. Having said that, out of 5%, we have to see this in two categories. One is 4% for motorcycles and 1% for three-wheelers. The three-wheeler market, we believe, is at rather immediate risk, which is the 1% of our total sales. The 4%, which is for motorcycles, we believe it is at risk, but motorcycles will take a much longer time to transition to EVs. In fact, there was a KPMG study which said that by FY30, they are expecting less than 30% of the motorcycles being sold in the country to be in the form of EVs. So 70% will remain as ICE motorcycles, less than 30% as EV motorcycles. And then there are newer products which are, so drive shaft is relevant for all. Forgings, it's not shown here, but it's relevant for all. In fact, due to lightweighting, it is probably more relevant for EVs. In the case of BMS, it is not required in an ICE vehicle, but it is required in an EV vehicle. Yeah, you might be interested in knowing what our market share is in most of the key products that we do. So for front forks and rear monoshocks, which are our suspension parts, our market share hovers around 40%. In the case of disc brake as systems, we control 34% of the market where there are hydraulic brake systems. Here in the denominator, we have not included the drum brake market, which is non-hydraulic. And in the brake disc market, we are 52% of the hydraulic brake system market. In the case of clutches, we look at only the motorcycle market, and within the motorcycle market, we contribute to 15%. So we are a dominant, very dominant player in front fork, so in suspensions and brakings. In the case of clutches, we are in the top 3. In aluminium die casting, we are the largest player, but it's difficult for us to calculate market share because of the fragmented nature of the market. But in aluminium die casting, we are the leader. We are the largest in terms of the capacities that we have. Similarly, in Europe, we are among the largest aluminium die casting companies, and the marquee car makers, they rely on say 4 or 5 suppliers. So we are one of them. So when a Volkswagen or a Stellantis is launching a new model and requests for quotes are sent out for aluminium die casting, we always receive those quotes, because not only have we demonstrated our technical capabilities, but we are financially also very well off in both regions, both in India and Europe. We are net debt negative, and the European car makers know that this is a company where if there's an investment requirement, we will not shy away from it. Here we have tried to say that compared to FY13, how large is the market today in FY23? So in the two-wheeler industry, there's been a CAGR of 2.1% in volume terms. In the three-wheeler industry in India, there's been a 0.2% CAGR. In the European new car registrations, there's been degrowth over the last 10 years. So looking at this modest growth in volumes in India and a degrowth in Europe, I think we've done fairly well to say that in our standalone sales, we've had a CAGR of 9.5%. Of course, this is in value terms, so it's not exactly comparable, but even if we remove the value impact, we would be ahead of market. And in consolidated sales, we are 8.7% CAGR. Here, we've shown our PAT margin here, and our consistent track record of profitability has led us to a very strong net worth today. Our net debt is negative. And our large customers, where sales is more than 100 crores, the number of such customers has gone up from 5 to 11. Sorry. So this is about our financials. The fact that we've been growing in Europe also. This is a very key element of our growth strategy, the aftermarket. So our Indian aftermarket contributes to 5% of our consolidated sales. We export to 32 countries and have a wide distribution network with 69 full-time employees engaged in this area. Sorry, I have a bad throat. But these slides talk about our strategy and our focus, as well as our focus on, our values and ESG, safety, our people focus. So this presentation is there on our website. So I'd like to invite questions now.
Within aluminium die casting, can you tell us the split firstly between 4-wheelers and 2-wheelers? How much would be towards 4-wheelers, roughly? And within that 4-wheelers, how much is towards the engine kind of components and the rest of the vehicle?
See, our European sales is roughly 25% of our total sales. So, and Europe may almost 95% is aluminium die casting for 4-wheelers. So you can say that 25% is fully for 4-wheelers. In India, our die casting sales, including alloy wheels, is roughly 41%. Yeah, and our 4-wheeler sales is roughly 7%.
Okay.
So then 41 and then 7 and 35%. So roughly one-sixth of our die casting sales in India goes into 4-wheelers.
Okay. And within the 4-wheeler aspect, especially in Europe, how much would be to your critical components for the vehicle, especially your engines, transmission components?
Everything is critical. What we manufacture for the 4-wheeler.
But the latter part of your question as to how much is going into engines, so that proportion is reducing. Yeah, and what is very key is what we highlight in our quarterly presentations, the fact that we are getting a lot of new orders in the EV and hybrid space.
Right.
So in the last 5 years in Europe, we've said in our quarterly presentation, for the last 4 years and 1 quarter, we've got 237 million worth of orders, out of which 86 million worth of orders are for BEV applications and 112 million is for hybrid applications. So 80% of our new orders in the last 4 years have been in this EV and hybrid space. So that's it's a very significant number, and it tells you that in the next 3-4 years. So European Parliament has said that in FY35 they will not be registering any cars which has a ICE engine. Yeah. So by that time, the domestic market will have all EVs, no hybrids and no ICE vehicles. So it's very important that we have more around 40% of our new orders in basic BEVs.
So just to make sure I underline that question a little bit more, like it's not clear to a non-engineer essentially that when you look at the aluminum die-cast market as it stands today, if you cut it on the dimension of engine and non-engine, you make the projection that in a battery electric vehicle there will be more aluminum die-cast products. But is there any relevance of having a large market share in aluminum die-cast non-electric vehicle products and trying to make those products which are not really in use today? So is there an overlap of products that are required in battery electric vehicles and what are required in ICE vehicles?
See, to answer your question, battery electric vehicles also have got a transmission.
Sure.
Right? So they would be having an aluminum component over there. There are other side channels and other things which have got a battery. I'm talking about two wheels right now. So there also side channels are there, part of the frame. So these are aluminum components. So engine goes away, but some part of the castings, or let's say a larger part of the casting, still remains on the vehicle because lightweighting is an important element of that. So a larger part of castings remain on that. And what we analyze that the content or the weight of castings which are used for EV is higher than what is used in.
So what would be, if you had to abstract and say today for a two-wheeler, what would be the weight/value of an aluminum die-cast per vehicle? I mean, I guess models will vary, but take any vehicle.
We've done that analysis on comparables. Of course, battery EVs don't have CCs, but if I take a certain CC of a scooter and then try to take EV scooter with similar power.
Yeah, let's take a Activa and a Ather.
Yeah, so we've done that study. So the number of parts are aluminum die casting parts are more in a EV. The weight is lesser.
Right.
Yeah, but the aggregate value for players like us who are into aluminum die casting is similar.
So what you're saying is that in a market that's already transitioning actively, between a Activa and a Ather, which for the sake of an example, it could be other products will come in.
Yeah.
The volume of aluminum die-cast in both is roughly similar.
Yes.
So what goes away from the engine probably gets needed in other parts of the vehicle, and the value is the same.
Yes.
And is there a difference in market share or market capability that you need to have for these other products that a battery vehicle has? Like, given that you are other products relevance, is capability relevant in both parts of?
See, capability comes from where? From the equipment and infrastructure that you have. These are die casting components, high pressure die casting components. For that, capability is built up in the processes and the machine itself, and your design part of it. So if you look into the engine parts, of course, these are built to print, which the design comes from the customer. But there also we do a lot of value add by reducing the weights and seeing wherever there's extra mass we can reduce it, and we offer it to the customers as a value engineering or value engineering proposal. In EVs, what happens is something similar, but the content on a motorcycle, when you have all parts put together, if I'm answering your question correctly, when you have all your parts put together, the configuration of the vehicle is bigger than what an EV is.
Okay.
Right. For example, an alloy wheel on a motorcycle would be bigger.
Yeah.
Alloy wheel on a scooter would be smaller.
Right.
So weight-wise and other things can be a bit different, but otherwise the content of aluminium is critical in both the vehicles.
Sorry, just to add over here, just want to understand, are you saying that the designing is largely done by the customers and ours is more, as you said, the other value-added services when it comes to aluminum die casting?
See, we are largely currently, if I look into ICE, we are into engine components. Engine components are designed by the customer,
Okay.
not by but we are engaged with them right from day one.
Okay.
Because certain design aspects are also taken care by us, where we do the mold flow simulations and other things along with the customer for them. That design aspect remains with us, where we do the simulations and other things. We offer them, value engineering ideas over there. Okay, you can cut corners over here, you can reduce the thicknesses over here. There's no need to have heavy mass or heavy section over here. And what will be the ease to manufacture this? That's something we do. When it comes to process, how good is your process for controlling onto productivity, reducing rejection, controlling the porosities, which is a natural defect phenomenon of any casting. Porosities. It depends what level of casting you have. Level 1, level 2, level 3. They're pre-classified over there. So that's where the process plays an important role, in which the customer has got no role. It's the manufacturer who's got that key strength.
Just a follow up to that question, that's the fact that engine is such a central part of an ICE vehicle seems to imply that people would be willing to pay. I mean, of course, they'll pay for your engineering jobs, but also they'll pay a little bit more premium for the criticality of the component. In a battery vehicle, is aluminium die casting used for something peripheral? I mean, people will say, okay, let's commodity-ish in nature, we can get somebody else to make it, or it's still as central.
It is still as central because the battery pack has got an aluminium casing on top. If you look into that machining, it's very, very critical. The parallelism and the parallelism or warpage on a battery pack can ruin the battery performance. So these are very critical. Dimensionally, they're very critical components.
Okay.
I was talking to our R&D team, so they said that if the battery pack, if it has to fit in like this, the tolerances are so strict because any water ingress would spoil the battery.
Sure.
There cannot be any water ingress at all.
And what happens to the legacy business of aluminium die casting for ICE vehicles? Is the capacity sort of technology agnostic on the same machines you can sort of manufacture components for electric vehicles?
See, the process is either gravity die casting, low pressure die casting, or high pressure die casting.
Right.
The machines used for them are similar.
Effectively, the molds and stuff.
Molds are different.
Molds are different,
but the manufacturing technology of making the mold is the same.
Same. Okay.
The equipment used to manufacture the molds are the same.
Right.
Molds capacity we will have to take from the customer.
Sure.
Whether we take it as a capex, so we sell the mold to the customer, or we amortize it over the
Life
part.
of the project. Yeah.
So, you mentioned that we have entered into aluminium forging, currently mostly for captive consumption. Do you see it as a growth vertical? Like, will you further deploy capital to take external orders as well? Like, what's the plan on that?
We've already taken a couple of external orders. So we've taken orders from HMCL, and very recently we got an export order from JLR. So yes, we see it as a business opportunity.
Like, for the captive consumption, who will be you're procuring from this time?
These are aluminium forging components which used to be coming from Europe, and there were other players in India also, who were supplying specific forging components which are the axle plans for our suspension.
Yeah.
Earlier we didn't have the plans to bring that as an import substitution because the volumes did not substantiate the investments required. Here the investments required are huge. The presses are very expensive. The entire process of heat treatment and all are very expensive. But now we are doing close to 20,000 inverted front forks every month. So the requirement of aluminium forging has increased, and it completely fills up our capacities which we have installed. So captive consumption makes a lot of sense in the case. But as we move forward, we found that yes, other OEMs are finding that aluminium forging companies in India are less for doing such big parts, and that's why they've given us orders for that.
And like you mentioned, inverted front forks, now the volumes are gaining traction even for incremental orders. Let's say Hero is also coming up with Charisma and with more RE launches as well. So we have orders from everyone in terms of for inverted front fork and monoshock procurement?
No, I can't say we've got orders from everyone, right? But we are a dominant player in the market. We've got orders from Hero, we've got orders from Honda, we've got orders from Bajaj.
And sir, how much this, in terms of cost saving, let's say captively if we manufacture aluminum forging, how should we think in terms of is there scope of expansion and margins, since suspension is a big share in standard?
I think you should look at it from the perspective of import substitution, nothing else. Right? And it's a complete de-risking plan for your own self. Today, if I'm doing 20,000 inverted front forks a month, that means I've got a substantial requirement for my captive consumption itself. So instead of having huge inventories, if you buy something from Europe, you need a 6 months inventory still. The order cycle is 6 months. So anything which I need 6 months hence, I've got to order today. So it is for that reason that your inventories pile up. And we've seen a substantial reduction in our inventory ever since we started forging components in our. It's a huge saving. And secondly, you're more accurate on your production planning. So there are multiple savings. So I would not look into only increasing margins from it. I look at it from many other bigger prospects.
And also, just on ABS part, like we have started manufacturing ABS walls and hoses also in-house, so we might be more cost competitive than existing guys because we are a late entrant. So how do you see ABS ramping up? Like,
we are already at our full stage capacity. The ramp up capacity was 400,000 in a year. We are already at that stage. And we are also adding what we have said to we are also adding for dual channel assembly. And that's being added for another 200,000 per year. Capacities are being added. As far as valves and hoses are concerned, when we had to meet the regulatory requirements, the time that we had for ourselves was less. So the shortest possible route was that we buy these critical components from our collaborators, so that we get on board as far as supplying ABS is concerned a bit faster than expected. Otherwise, making valves in-house and understanding that technology would have taken time. So we took some critical components from direct purchase from our collaborators. Now, to become more competitive and have a de-risking towards import content, we started manufacturing the valves in-house. So there were two ideas behind that. One is to save cost and be more competitive, as and when, because every import has got a cost. It's higher than what you may make domestic. So to be more cost competitive, and also to have the technology, the key technology part is also in the valves.
Yeah.
So have that in-house. Secondly, de-risk yourself and be competitive to the extent that any cost price competition comes in, you are able to match that and fight that.
So one question I have in terms of like the slide where you showed legacy, current, and the new. What's the thought process? How do you want to take this company forward in terms of the newer product? Because there's multiplicity of things happening. So you have transmissions changing, you have engine powertrains changing, you have fuels changing. So how do you see this overall? And of course, you have two-wheeler, four-wheeler kind of mix happening at the same time. So it's becoming pretty complex as a business from at least from an outsider's perspective when we look at it. From your perspective as an insider, how do you see that? How do you kind of drive through this noise which is happening and kind of steer the business longer term?
Just a related question. Last 10 years, sales CAGR consolidated is around 8.7%. Now with all the new technologies that we are working on, the acquisitions that we've done, etc., where do you see the next decade in terms of growth rate? Assuming that industry rates are largely, end industry growth rates are largely, unchanged.
So let me answer that question in two ways.
Yeah.
One is that I can't make a forward-looking statement for 10 years because I don't know what's going to be prevailing at that time.
Right.
But I only know one thing to answer your question, that vehicles will coexist, like EV will also exist and
Right.
ICE will also exist. That means any product which I did or I have for myself is part of my horizontal expansion and vertical expansion. What is my horizontal expansion? Something like I bring in wire-braided hoses as import substitution, I do aluminium forging import substitution, I do valves in-house. These are my horizontal expansions towards my product. What are my vertical expansions? Premiumization.
Right.
Instead of my existing product, I know that premium vehicles are also going to command a very strong position in the market. So
Right.
what I do, I've got this inverted front forks and monoshocks, and for ABS, I've graduated to ABS. For brakes, I've graduated to ABS models. So this was a vertical expansion of the product. The moment I add wire braided hoses onto it, right, I'm actually creating an entry barrier for my competition.
Right.
Because a customer would not want, that there are too many players making one product and finally handing it. But if one vendor has got all the products in house, at least the quality assurance is higher.
And they can catch hold of it.
They can catch hold of one. Then warranty becomes my complete responsibility. Otherwise, I can push it back to the hose supplier, or I can push it back to the valve supplier and so on. At least we eliminate all those controversies.
Right.
So I hold responsibility of the entire braking system, and for that matter, suspension of all the products that we do. So the strategy behind is to remain over there and ensure that we are there in all possible product segments that we have. Our products are configured in such a way or brought up in such a way to the OEMs that we don't lose out on any position. So that CAGR that you're talking about, 8.9% or whatever, that should not be lost in the middle, by not being on certain platforms. So being present on all platforms is more important to us. Vertically expanding your product in such a way that you don't miss out on the advancements of technology that is happening on the vehicle or on your products, you don't miss out on that. And that's the reason why what I say is matching the business model. Products that we bring in are matching our business model. Somebody may think today that why did we get into BMS? BMS is electronic, it's embedded system, embedded electronics. So embedded electronics is now being all the products that I'm going to make, right? ABS for brakes, electronic suspension. So all these electronics have got to talk to each other on a vehicle.
Correct.
So at that moment, if I don't know what electronics is and I stand like an alien over there, it's difficult to hold my business. So that's why embedded electronics coming through BMS.
Right.
So that I understand what is happening with my product, I understand how the configurations are changing, I understand how the expectations from the customer are changing. So if you look into our philosophy right since day one, complete solutions is something that we have always spoken about. So if I'm offering complete solutions to customers, it is by way of expanding my own product.
Now I flip this question and say, how does it expand the opportunity for you over the longer term? What do you do to so what you are doing is pretty complex because you're serving a lot of powertrains and a lot of different product range. How do you leverage this and take this to global and Indian customers to grow this pie bigger for you?
Okay, that's a good question. First of all, have I consumed the entire space in India? Answer is no.
Right.
So if at all I've got to grow bigger,
Right.
I still have got a lot of space ahead of me. For example, the regulatory requirements give you ABS.
Right.
So 150cc and above bikes got an ABS configuration onto it. That means hydraulic brake system is there.
Correct.
Right. Now, if that same thing, regulatory requirement has got to move downwards, a
Right.
downshift on 100cc bikes,
Right.
then you've got to have hydraulic brake systems, if not ABS.
Right.
Right. Hydraulic brake systems, because that's better than a
Right.
mechanical
Right.
brake system. That's better than. So there, where do I stand a chance? I stand a very dominating position because I have got all the experience of supplying hydraulic brake systems to the world existingly.
Right.
So there I find the first mover advantage. I find being a dominant there. I find myself in a stronger position because I understand the market conditions.
Right.
Market conditions does not mean sales and revenue.
Yeah.
It's the vehicle, what the vehicle experiences on the road.
Right.
So my quality is actually more superior by the way of my exposure and understanding on the field failures.
Right.
So today if I'm giving brakes which are running in ppm of failures, right? So ppm is what? I mean, today we have supplied more than 400,000 ABS modulators with zero defect.
Right.
So how does this come? It's based on the knowledge that you have acquired from all the failures that you experience on the field, redesigning your product in such a way that those phenomena and events, even if they happen on the field, your product does not give away. So that's how you go on improving the quality of your product.
Right.
The more you go on doing that, it's a huge warranty cost which comes down and a huge lot of botheration or a big question which happens in the field. These days media is so fast. The communication is so fast. Something put on WhatsApp or something put on anywhere that a failure has happened, it spreads like wildfire.
Right.
And that's why people are very worried about that.
Correct.
So our job is to ensure that there should be no premature failures, there should be no failures on the product, there should be no warranty cost which goes so high that it becomes non-bearable. So it affects our product also. So that's where we place in ourselves to find a position where we give qualitative product to our customers.
So that kind of expands your market. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Longer term expansion. So that kind of takes care of the whatever you're doing can be replicated on other stuff in terms of other product ranges and other. Also, the 4-wheeler, 2-wheeler. How do you see that mix for you shifting?
Well, yet another good question. We are already there into the space of 4-wheeler. You must have seen in the last 3-4 years we have expanded.
Right.
We expanded primarily into aluminium casting because that's where our domain expertise is there since the last 30 years plus. So we've added up more customers. Hyundai, Kia, the kind of dependence which they have on us today. We're doing how much? 250 to 300 crores of business?
Yeah.
So that is coming from where? Only the last 2 years.
Right.
So if our presence is increasing to that extent, and whereas I've been a historical supplier to Tata Motors,
Right.
which I'm still, very actively supplying, I think close to 75, 80 or 100 crores, around that much. But in Kia and Kia Hyundai, I've gone ahead of that.
Which is
So-
much smaller in terms of numbers.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that we are, expanding our base on 4-wheeler applications also.
Right.
If I look into Europe, if I look at
Yeah.
my consolidated basis, there it's almost 100% 4-wheeler.
Right.
And here we are around 8% or how much?
7%.
7% of
The domestic business.
domestic business.
Right.
So I'm expanding my ground on 4-wheeler also.
And what is the kind of opportunity here on the 4-wheeler side for the product that you have currently?
See, it's the domain expertise of die casting. Right?
Right.
So if at all I'm going to make a transmission case or an engine block or something, there are only two different types of technologies used: high pressure die casting, low pressure die casting, or third is gravity die casting.
Right.
So and I've got expertise of all the three.
Right.
It depends where do I exactly want to move it.
Okay.
So what roadmap have I declared for myself that I'm going to do fully machine castings for them,
Okay.
right? Which saves the bother of the customer to put in investments at his house.
Right.
Earlier, if you look into earlier years, yesteryears as I may call it, the OEMs used to do final bore and final finishing of the casting or any kind of machine parts
Yeah.
in-house.
Yeah.
In-house. Probably because they never believed that the capability exists outside. Right?
Right.
Now, that was a huge investment for them. But in 2007, I'm talking about a smaller casting now, 2007, we were the first ones to do fully machined castings, even including the final bore. From there, we gained the confidence, and then while we graduated to 4-wheeler, orders from Getrag were picked up. Getrag orders we picked up in 2013 or 2012. That was the large order that we picked up for Mexico.
Okay.
And Mexico picked up that ECV 250, something like that, and then MX65 was to follow. These are two platforms that we got. They were fully machined castings. So, what do you save for the customer? Not only the botheration of investing, but the responsibility totally comes to us, where he can simply, if he finds the product is not good or the casting is not good, he can only reject it. But nothing goes from his side. He doesn't lose on capacity, he doesn't lose on investment, he doesn't lose on anything, at least, but he assures his business to us and we assure the quality to him. So this is how the expansion can happen. So we've chosen the way of doing fully machine castings,
Okay.
not doing as cast.
But just to take that line of thinking forward, if you take the entire system of all the two-wheelers being sold in India, you've reached a fairly high market share. And like the slide was showing, you've reached a high market share. And if 5 years out, 10 years out, if basically the overall consumption of vehicles does not go up, the market is growing at 2%, let's say it goes at 4%, your ability to outgrow the market in terms of share gain is that much more limited right now. You'll substitute your current sales with sales of battery electric vehicles, but you will not be able to gain much more market share. Like while the absolute pie you'll never reach 100%, there's a natural limit in terms of what market share you can.
So what is that limit?
That's
Nobody
my
will
question.
define. Nobody. I will keep on making ingress. Today I'm with Mahindra, Tatas, and I'm with Mahindra, and Tata, Kia, and Hyundai. I'm with all of these guys. Right? Am I exploiting the total potential of Tata's as far as die casting is concerned? Answer is big no. Right? So
That's what I was asking you. What's that?
So that space is there. That space is there. It depends how much do I want to grow. I want to grow for as much as I can. Right? Because it requires capacities, it requires investments, so finding your own space is something more important. Like for example, in two-wheelers, we said for ourselves that smaller tonnage casting we are not going to do.
Okay.
But that does not mean that opportunity is not existing. 660 ton and below, 420 ton and below, we don't do these castings. because you've got to position yourself.
Yeah.
If I look at the total content of aluminium that is required on bikes and total auto industry, I'll not be able to count it because I'm not in a space where I don't want to be. I don't want to make these levers and footrests and other things. I don't want to be in that space. I'm making engine components, cylinder heads, cylinder blocks, crankcases, covers. I'm doing those parts. So where you position yourself, you've got to find out where do you want to expand from there, rather than finding space for your total market.
Okay.
So since Bajaj is one of our key customers, we have been struggling on the export side. So since we will get production getting much easier, our revenues are growth is slightly getting hindered because of that. So do we see that situation improving?
Why not? Nothing is forever, no?
No, but do we at moment see, because they will give you earlier production schedules, right? So do you see that benefit coming, let's say, within a quarter?
See, what has been their strategy? I'll not be able to comment on much on Bajaj, that how much of export is getting recovered for them. I don't have that. I can only tell you what schedules I get are better or not better.
Yeah.
So the status in as far as export is concerned is not going to remain stagnant like this. The geopolitical situation will change. It will come back because the market is huge overall. No? If I take world as the market, then the potential is enormous for me.
Yeah. In their quarterly call, they mentioned about some countries reviving in the next 3 to 6 months, and other countries will take longer.
Do you see that in your schedules right now?
Like,
Is there an improvement?
from your growth perspective, can that delta come? We want to understand from you.
So as I said, when will that come? That they've already said in 3 to 6 months. So obviously, if they are lower on sales right now, those schedules are not with us. But when exactly which platform will pick up, that will happen in 3 to 6 months and all. Earlier we had a figure that Q2 of this year should be better. So if that's the number, if that's the phase that you're looking for, Q2 of this year should be better. If it's not better, then export is something that you can catch up at any time.
Fair point. And so one more thing, whenever I read in terms of growth opportunities, you talk about, let's say, 125cc or 200cc and above, we have orders in that segment. Is it specifically that you are not looking at 100cc? I know it's a declining category, but we never mentioned, let's say, Honda Shine 100, we are receiving incremental orders.
But we never said that we are declining in 100cc. We never said that we are not going to pick up orders for 100cc.
Yeah.
We never said that.
I'm not saying you are declining. I'm saying, but in terms of, let's say, even when Seva presented, he talked about clutches in 200cc.
Yeah, why? Because see, what you're finding on each conversation that we have, right? Probably we have met on 5 different occasions. What is new is something that you're more inclined to know. Isn't it? What is existing? So that's what he's telling you. What is new?
No, but even Honda Shine 100, let's say it's a new model, so probably...
So we've spoken about Suzuki scooter front forks.
Yeah.
So that's not a very high-end scooter. But it's something new for us, though it's in a lower CC category. We've spoken about it.
I have one question, just last thing from my end. Will this industry now see an accelerated consolidation because of the complexity increasing?
That's a very good question. And I'll be happy to answer that in a way. That the number of models that are there in the market, the number of players that are there in the market, okay, all of them cannot coexist. Some kind of consolidation will happen. The smaller players will merge into the larger ones. Which one will merge where? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that it will accelerate, and how quickly will it accelerate?
I don't know, because see, right now, FAME Subsidy 1 or FAME, this has gone, it's impacted some part of the industry. I think they will recalibrate themselves. But some small players may get tied up with each other. Like today, the example is Triumph and Bajaj. 2 big players have joined hands to make one vehicle. Hero and Harley Davidson.
That's front end. I'm just saying.
Yeah, अब back end में भी ऐसा ही कुछ होगा ना. भाई
ancillaries के लिए
होगा ना.
I think OEMs के लिए तो it's an advantage, ना. If they have to deal with lesser number of suppliers,
So
it's an
because I'm
advantage.
saying that the complexity is becoming mind-boggling in terms of just the transmission change and the engine change and the model change. It's so rapid. Everything is so rapid. The
But
accelerating.
internally, are we finding it mind-boggling? I don't think so. See, what we have to focus upon is resource
I
allocation.
walk in now. I have 3 powertrains on
Okay.
every model.
Okay.
Right? Just imagine that you are in a 2-wheeler. You have multiple models and multiple powertrains.
Yeah, so agility, flexibility is something which every business model will have to have.
Right.
I gave this example earlier this morning that somewhere around in 2012 or so, I was in Europe. In those days, Piaggio was doing very well. The owner of Adler,
Right.
he traveled, Adler is something that we have acquired. He traveled with me from Milan to Pontedera, which is near to Pisa. 600 kilometers up and down for just 6,000 sets of clutch assemblies. Just 6,000 assemblies per year, annual number. So what was that reflection that I got from there? That you have to be present on every model. Because what is the end user? End user is whom? The consumer who's driving the bike. What will be his perception of adopting a vehicle or not is market quality, market safe, his personal choices and everything. Once all that comes into play, then which model is going to be excelling, nobody knows.
No, exactly.
Nobody knows. So I can't change the complexity of auto industry.
Right.
But I can definitely change the complexity of my plant to be more agile, to
That's
be
what I was
more
saying.
flexible, so that if any of the model goes up and down, I'm able to quickly adopt. So my assembly lines and my manufacturing facilities today are as such that if I've got to change one model to the next, I can do that in no less, but in very, very less time. Because I can't afford to lose any model, not to be on any model. Which one does better, I don't know. And all this that I'm talking about is coming out of experience. Experience of what? Multitude failures. What is that failure? In one of the bikes, we were given ZXi and VXi. There were two models of the same, two variants of the same model. We were given a larger share of LXi.
Right.
Because they expected that ZXi being a superior model, it was somewhere around 1,500 rupees more expensive than the LXi. So they said more volumes will come from LXi, not ZXi. It happened absolutely reverse. People preferred to choose a higher configured vehicle rather than a lower configured vehicle, and I was not on that platform.
Yeah.
So I lost. I didn't lose on business. It's just the choice of the market, choice of the end user. So today what's important that you've got to be on every single bike. Don't tell this to my competition, you'll also start buying on it.
One question. What's our scooter share in total revenues?
Single digit. 9%.
Just want to understand. So even from
Standalone.
the EMS aspect,
9% standalone.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you're
you.
You're talking about the OEMs outsourcing the battery management systems and so on to the ancillary. So when I look at an electric vehicle, there are 3-4 critical components apart for the battery itself, right? So the battery pack is something that they're also willing to do in-house as well. So where is it that we get the competitive advantage as against OEMs wanting to do some of these solutions in-house? Because there are limited components, how do they retain their identity against competition?
See, for them it is also a question of speed of launch, because if they wait to create internal resources and to test their algorithms for 5 years, like Maxwell algorithms have been running on the road for 5 years.
Right.
Yeah, they'll not be able to launch quickly. They'll get beaten by competition.
Fair enough, but then would that also, I understand that right now when there's a urgency of launching new
Once the
products.
space is created, then that will stay. I don't think
It's a new name, Manus.
Manas.
Thank you, Manas.
Thank you. So just one question, margin trajectory with all the value addition and the premiumization, medium term, how do you see your
I'm not like to put a number on that, but I can only say that yes, we are a very focused company as far as margins are concerned.
Yeah.
In case we like some part was diluted because of the aluminium
pressure,
and
yes.
change and all. But we are very focused on what we are doing and changing that to bringing it back to the original
So
condition.
15-16% operating margin.
I would not like to put that number, but
Not immediately. I'm saying, is that the
Why
medium
not?
term range that we are
Why
looking at? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think I'll be seeing you next week for the plan.
No, I'm not coming.
Okay.
I'm not coming.
Anyways, but I'm excited to see the plan.
Please, you're most welcome.
Thank you.
So great. How would you like us to proceed?
So, I think key idea of this meeting was to just go a little bit in more depths and understand as in how do we see endurance from slightly longer term perspective. as in obviously there was this con call where you spoke about a lot of new orders, etc., that the company's been getting. But just wanted to get, as I said, more ingrained perspective. Where is the company heading next 3 years plus? How do you see the company shaping up? So, if we can start off with what are the key strengths that we see as a company and how we've been taking this journey. I see this diversification happening in terms of the client base that we are doing. How do we shape the European business from here? So, yeah.
Okay, let me answer this a bit differently. Right? We have got 4 product verticals: transmission, braking, suspension, and casting. And then we've got sub verticals on brakes. For example, we've got wire braided hoses, which we do in house. That's an integral part of brakes as far as the product is concerned. And we also have got on transmission, we've got aluminium forging, but that's a part which we supply or make for captive consumption of for our suspension plants. Now, let's look into the model that is emerging now for Indians. Our prime slogan since our inception of our business model has been complete solutions. So, have we been able to give complete solutions to our customers? That's where we've got to look into, because that's where that is what it's going to follow up further. For example, when ABS came into play, and first I'll just give you examples and then you can correlate to the longer term strategy. When ABS came into the regulatory requirements, nobody was thinking that how to optimize the configuration. First requirement was to put the ABS into regulatory norms and have the vehicle ready with ABS, which people did. Now, what was missing in that? It was an import substitution of wire braided hoses, which was coming from Spain at that time. They were the dominant players. J.J. were the dominant player. So, import substitution of that had to happen, which is offering the next level solution to the customer that okay, imports is going to go away if that is localized. Likewise, in aluminium forging, which was around 10 years back when we started inverted front forks, aluminium forging there were 4 elements in one front fork: 2 axle clamps and 2 triple clamps. Triple clamps are the one which hold the leg assemblies, and axle clamps are at the bottom which hold on to the wheel. Now these are structural components. We probably did not have that much of experience, and neither did anybody want to depend on that experience on gravity die casting and high pressure die casting. This was imported forging. India did not have very strong players on aluminium forging, especially these typical structural parts. So this was imported from a company called Liber and Forgy Aluminium. Yeah, please. Would you like to ask something?
And one normal tea.
One normal tea, please.
And with sugar, medium sugar. And if you can pass me water. Okay.
You can help yourself for some snacks also.
Yeah.
So that was an import substitution. Now, what are these actions? These are actions justifying your position with your customer that you've got a problem in hand, or you've got a vehicle configured with some imported parts. So localize them. Is giving you a solution so that dependency is less, right? From food. Now, what we have found that when we localize that, even after 10 years, today the volumes that we have substantiate that investment. Right? It's a captive consumption. Now, what are 2 advantages that we got today? Is not only the use of captive consumption but also reduction of our inventories. Inventories is also a cost.
Right.
The order cycle with Europe for especially forging now is 6 months.
Okay.
If I need, let's say, 1,000 components, 6 months hence I've got to order today.
Okay.
So huge inventories, I have to build in huge inventories, at least transit in inventories and all. And then which model will do well, which will not do well. An axle clamp for an adventure would be different, an axle clamp for a Pulsar would be different, for a KTM would be different. So I'll have to keep a lot of inventories.
Right.
That inventory count has come down.
Okay.
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 And I've localized that.
Okay.
Now it has helped me 2 ways. I'm protecting my margins because the value add comes in house.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I'm protecting my customer by saying that okay, I've got a product for you. If you give these orders to someone else, he does not have that product. He will still have to buy imported material.
Right.
I will not supply forgings to my competition to survive.
Correct.
So I get a clear advantage. So that was creating an entry barrier.
But how do you compete with somebody like Bosch? So like if you, the way they started first and now we are catching up there. What kind of price differential are you able to offer to the
Yeah, so
customer for them
when I come to ABS modulator, I'll talk about that. So I'm just giving examples that what does complete solution mean to us.
Right.
We mean that anything that we are offering to the customer, be it design, be it development, be it manufacturing, be it after sales, anything that the customer does at his place, right, we offer that solution first.
Got it.
For example, design is something which was always done by the customer. They are still doing that design.
Okay.
But now suspension design is not their job. We do the suspension design.
Oh.
We only get something like a DIDS, which is design input data sheet. We get that from them and we tell them for this vehicle configured that you want, this is how the suspension will behave.
Okay.
Okay. So now there's zero participation from his side. I give him the suspension.
So basically, now that you've done so many models, that experience and all adds up, and then they are able to.
And we are able to give them a solution to that. So design is the first solution. Then development. Earlier years means yesteryears, maybe 20 years back or whatever. The customers were doing a lot of operations in-house.
Correct.
We brought them, they started outsourcing, we picked up all those opportunities, we are doing them. So now it's not only doing those outsourcing activities, but actually giving them solutions of not only design, but development of child parts. Development of child parts, testing those child parts, validating those child parts, seeing that they integrate with my product or not, and seeing that whether all those components which are assembled to make one front fork, are they assembled together perfectly to give the right performance for all the child elements.
Right.
When I say suspension has got 20 different elements into it. Right? Be an outer tube, be an inner tube, be it oil. Even oil has got a performance level.
Okay.
You know, so the viscosity level and everything has got control. And every small element, an oil collar or a seal or something, everything is performance. So how does every element assemble together to give the best performance on the field?
Right.
So that is offering complete solutions. So design, develop, validate, manufacture, supply and service.
Right.
So I supply and then give them the service. Service means aftermarket, give them sales service, post-sale service. Now post-sale service is something people think that it's spare parts department supply karna. That's not my thinking. That's not the way we think.
Okay.
I'm sure others also think this way. That we actually go down to the field, understand from mechanics what do they perceive of our products. We assemble or configure a vehicle with all instrumentation and run it ourselves on the field, which is RLDA, road load data acquisition. So all the events which are captured on the road may not be the total events which you do at design stage.
Got it.
So we simply bring all those extra events that happen, simulate them in our lab, simulate them on the machines, and ensure that our products are good to encounter those.
Got it.
Okay, so that's
Right.
one step ahead on sales,
Right.
on after sales.
Right.
So offering complete solutions has been our prime definition.
But just tell me one thing, is the customer willing to pay you for this? Because we know how cost conscious or,
Yeah, but if
trying to squeeze the maximum on it is what they are
it's a
looking
good
at.
question.
Then
Good
how
question.
does this value addition help the customer in
Even if he's not
Giving
paying
you
me for
it.
this, he's offering me business.
okay.
He's offering
Fair,
me
fair
business.
That's
So-
a strong.
I'm doing business. You tell me one company in India, just name one company except for Endurance, who has got a test track of their own. 29 acres of land converted into a test track in which, I've got at least 13 different types of tracks over there. Testing the vehicle so that I ensure that I give them a product which is first time right.
Got it. So you are right. So if between the competing companies and obviously you stand a better chance. Okay. Sure.
So I'll be getting the first moves.
First.
Today, it's because of this reason probably I'm into a very dominant position as far as high-end suspension is concerned.
Right. It was a pleasant,
We are very
realization
dominant.
when we got to know that okay,
Very
both the new launches we are the ones who will be supplying.
Now, so this is what we do. Now, how do I look at 3 years, 5 years hence? So what I'm doing today is a preparation for 5 years hence. ठीक है? जैसे brakes में ABS modulator. Now, how did I modify that? ABS modulator, we were also challenging. You got your tea?
Yes, I know.
So we were also challenged by the regulatory norms. ठीक है, हमारे पास तो ABS था नहीं. We were very dominant in hydraulic brake systems.
Correct.
So hydraulic brake system में what was required? In order to enhance or graduate to the next level, ABS modulator चाहिए था. If I am not there on the ABS modulator, then I'll have to keep on buying the modulator from Bosch and do only a job work by filling oil into it.
Yes,
We didn't want to be-
low end work, correct.
We didn't want to get into that. क्योंकि फील्ड फेलियर होगा तो मैं बोलूंगा बॉश का मॉड्यूलेटर खराब है, वो बोलेगा तुमने ऑयल ठीक तरह से नहीं डाला.
ठीक है वो तो
ठीक है,
it's not
तो let's not get into that. तो we started making modulators ourselves. BWS से collaboration लिया, ठीक है, वो collaboration लाकर यहाँ कोड डेवलप करके यहाँ उसको implement किया. More than 400,000 modulators are there on the field and all of them are defect free, zero defect. So now that puts me onto a league with Bosch.
got it.
If I'm not equal to Bosch, but at least I'm doing that product which he was supplying to me.
No, I got it on my phone now. It's on this recording phone.
So I'm actually preparing myself for a tomorrow, for a better tomorrow. How do I do that? Let us suppose अभी 150cc bikes के ऊपर जो है that is all ABS. It's a regulatory requirement.
Correct.
125cc तक CBS है. Assume that this regulatory requirement extends to lower bikes also.
Correct.
Then ABS is required everywhere.
Then your span.
Then I'm a leader no, already.
Already.
Then for all that expansion, I don't need Bosch support.
Correct.
I'll do it on my own. Now, when ABS came, again, I'm giving the same example of complete solution.
Right.
Wire-braided hoses were required. That was imported. Valves, which were imported for us, we wanted to get onto the earlier stage of regulatory requirement. We said, okay, what's the best way to get on board fastest? Buy those components from my collaborator. जो भी उसके पार्ट्स है वो हम इसी में यूज कर लेंगे. वो कर लिया. But now we've got to be cost competitive.
Correct. So now you're doing it on your own.
Doing it
You've
on
done
our own.
backward integration.
So we did two-pronged strategy. One is first get on board fast, and then correct the cost.
Correct.
Okay, then correct the cost.
Right. But again, from the two-wheeler companies OEM perspective, were you able to get the cost advantage also versus somebody like Bosch when they could take you or?
No, because for them it was very easy. No, if at all I give them price advantage of X, he would drop the price by that much.
अच्छा, okay.
वो तो drop ही कर देगा ना उसको तो because he's already into business. So he would actually wipe me out, but we didn't allow that to happen.
Okay.
We went through a particular strategy.
Okay.
And we told our customer, okay, this is what you are getting from Bosch. Okay, this is our step. ये steps पे चलेंगे. We'll be cost competitive also.
Okay.
Now for them, it was important to put endurance on board because these big wigs, they keep on changing and the amount of money which they charge to customers is
Correct. Even they need a
second source. So second section I'm going to use here. So high-end suspension हो गया, brakes हो गया, high-end brakes हो गया, then high-end clutches. We bought Adler because we know at the background we have got the latest technology of APTC clutches. ठीक है? So this way we have actually prepared ourselves for a tomorrow. Tomorrow means what? High-end configurations. Tomorrow means what? High-end suspension, high-end brakes. And now the next thing that we are doing is BMS. Now adding up embedded electronics to our portfolio makes complete sense to our business model. How is that? ABS में electronics है, वो जो ECU उसका electronic है. Suspension जो है वो उसकी adjustments, damping adjustments सब automatic वो होने वाली, electronic control होनी चाहिए. We have already made that. Clutches में भी there's a lot of integration which is happening, which is long term. जो automatic clutches हैं उसमें भी ABS, some ECUs होंगे जो. Now eventually the bike configurations for the high-end bike configurations for years ahead will be having a lot of electronics talking to each other.
Correct. EVs तो we are seeing.
देखिए they'll be talking to each other. तो उस वक्त अगर मैं ये कहूँ कि now I don't know electronics and I don't know what is embedded, so what would I do then?
Correct.
Then I'm dependent on people who'll rob me day in day
So it
out.
makes sense at least to have your own BMS.
So-
Because again the question was that companies want to have BMS in-house.
Hmm.
Like somebody like a TVS already has BMS in-house. Then how are we having that
So
BMS?
इसलिए हम BMS in house मतलब we acquired Maxwell, and Maxwell has got a very strong technology with them. I am more confident after I talk to them again and again, and the kind of configurations which they have written and the kind of their product is already AS156 compatible. In fact, They said that they are the only ones manufacturing in India who could get it the fastest.
Okay.
Because they had already made more than 60,000 BMSs supplied throughout the world, and they knew what the road conditions are, how the BMS is going to behave, how it's going to be configured, how the algorithms are going to be written.
Okay.
ठीक है, BMS का सबसे.
So then how will it work? Because again, to give an example, I don't know about Bajaj Auto. I think even Bajaj Auto would be having for the EVs in-house BMS, or they are taking it from where off, I think.
I think they are into contract manufacturing and so on.
Right.
Eventually क्या होने वाला है?
हाँ.
Eventually क्या होने वाला है?
हाँ.
पहले भी तो बजाज सारे क्लच भी अंदर बनाते थे, सस्पेंशन भी बनाते थे, तो आउटसोर्स ही किया ना.
किया बात
तो
है, हाँ.
ये सब आउटसोर्स हो गई.
But okay, isn't BMS like too critical? The software controlling various things, integrating for an OEM to.
So what will finally happen?
हाँ.
What will finally happen? The way I foresee it, there will be a language
Right.
which will be for individual elements,
Okay.
and there will be a language by a central algorithm or software which talks to all.
Okay. Right.
तो जो talks to all है वो customer के पास रहेगा.
अच्छा ठीक है.
ठीक है.
And आपका अपने parts के लिए.
मेरे parts का रहेगा.
ठीक है. Fair. If
So
that is
that
the idea.
software, this is what I feel.
Got it.
The element which talks to all will be with the customer.
हाँ.
क्योंकि that's
what
his
the
IP.
customer will not
वो उसका
like.
IP होगा.
Correct. वो तो है.
तो मेरा IP क्या है कि मैं ऐसा एक ECU बनाऊंगा जो तुम्हारे ECU के साथ बात कर सकता है.
Then वो भी आपका fair point है कि going ahead if that is the future and you don't have it, then how do you develop that understanding or?
नहीं तो I will be left in the middle of nowhere, no? Because मेरे को समझ ही नहीं आएगा कि सस्पेंशन एक मैकेनिकल एलिमेंट है, वो मैकेनिकल एलिमेंट कंप्रेस तो मैकेनिकली ही होगा ना, मगर उसको इलेक्ट्रॉनिक एक्चुएशन है.
Correct.
तो अगर मेरे को इलेक्ट्रॉनिक ही नहीं समझ आ रहा तो मैं उसका एक्चुएशन करूँगा क्या? तो that means I will be holding a primitive technology at that time. 10 years later, if I don't know what is electronics or what is embedded electronics, then I'll be holding a primitive technology.
Got it. And again, from the company's perspective, and I don't want to come to like very quarterly margin or something, but just trying to understand that we as a company were at a different margin level few years back. I'm just talking standalone, not even going to Europe side right now. Now that the margins have come off a little bit, like we're talking about what 12-13% range in the standalone business for our margins. What has changed in the profile? As the market become more competitive, is it the new segments we are getting in which gets it lower?
No.
Or is it temporary?
There are two thoughts. There are two elements to this. ठीक है? Raj can explain it. I'll tell you the flavor of it.
हाँ.
पहले एल्युमिनियम कितने का था? 125 रुपए का या कुछ 125.
हाँ.
अब वो 220 तक भी पहुंचा.
Okay. तो percentages.
100 rupees का मेरे को कोई एडवांटेज नहीं मिला. It's only an indexing of aluminium.
Correct.
Which changed the arithmetical, optical, this thing.
Percentage.
Optical is understood, yeah.
Optical.
So if that is the case,
Okay, that is number
that
one.
makes sense. Okay.
Number two. What has changed? Fuel cost has changed. ठीक है, manpower cost has changed.
Okay.
Okay, wage agreements and all. Which, if a customer does not immediately address for you, let's say he addresses this cost after, let's say, 2 quarters.
Okay.
तो आपको तो cost आ गई ना, आपके balance sheet में तो cost आ गई ना.
Which I said is a temporary part.
Which is temporary.
okay
So
if
as
it's
and
going
when
to get
it gets indexed, and corrected, this will come back. And as and when the aluminium or steel prices soften down, this will come back.
But again, that if it's not making any difference to our absolute numbers, that is what is.
In the case of aluminium and steel, it doesn't make a difference to the
Correct.
absolute numbers.
Because
But in the
वो तो
case
सिर्फ
of
optical
fuel or
change
wages,
करेगा, right.
in the case of fuel or wages, all contracts will not have pass-through contracts
Correct.
for clauses for fuel and wages.
Right.
And even if there is pass-through on minimum wages, in reality you may have to pay more than the minimum
Correct.
wages, and your increases could also be more than the minimum wages.
True.
So all these factors affect us for existing contracts. Newer contracts, of course, one has to build in future wages.
Right.
And in Europe, at least for newer contracts, we are also building in price fluctuation for energy. Because they suffered a huge jolt
Correct.
last
Energy,
year.
what we've seen in last 1 year.
From 17% they went up down to 10-11%.
So just if I have to think of Endurance, as in the product portfolio, etc. Again, standalone right now, not Europe. But what kind of margin profile or range should I consider for Endurance on a long-term basis? Range, if you can give a fair bit and idea.
Then you'll have to make your own judgments. No?
No,
But
that is fair.
I mean,
You will make
your
it.
question was, are we planning or do we see
No,
coming
is it
back
like-
to where we were?
Is it like
Yes,
a
we are
12-13%? Is it like a 12-13% range
More than
we
that,
should
I would say.
expect? Or,
More than that, I
or
would
do you
say.
see okay?
Reason being, so for me to answer that, you have to answer whether the volumes will come back to 2019 levels.
That is okay, 1 point.
Yeah.
Right.
So if volumes come back, I think we will easily come back to the older levels of margins.
Right. But the newer product and newer businesses that we are getting also wanted to get an understanding.
It's a mix. It's a mix, and it's.
Similar.
I'm sure the mix is not such that it brings us to lower margins. So there are more value-added products. At the same time, sometimes there is a need to get into a certain customer where we might take a call that okay, we'll do it at a slightly lower margin. So all that, but on a mix, I mean, overall the margin profile has not worsened.
Okay.
What has worsened is lower utilization at some of our new plants, which if volumes come back in the industry, I'm sure players like Hero
Operating
and Honda will
leverage,
do well. And then we'll get operating leverage.
Okay, so then earlier we were even at 15%, but again to just say 13-14% should be like a normalized, comfortable
13 तक तो
range.
पहुंचे ही already.
Yeah, 13. Standalone में अभी उधर भी gap है. I think we were at 12.6. But with some subsidy and some comfort as well, right? Which will go.
But that was there 3 years back also, no?
No, okay.
जो PS
Agreed.
package scheme of
Agreed,
incentive है,
agreed,
वो तो
agreed.
3 years पहले भी था.
Correct, correct. So then you are saying gradually from that 12.5
Yeah,
also.
और ये
there would
incentives
be-
continue होंगी. This 2013 schemes की incentive,
हाँ.
the 60-65 crore that we are booking every
Correct,
year,
correct.
that will in FY25 again we will book the same level.
Okay.
FY26 to FY29 it will be at a much truncated level. But the 2019 scheme का application अब जा रहा है.
अच्छा, so वो start हो जाएगा.
वो start हो जाएगा. So ये 60-70 crores हर साल रहेगा
Oh.
for the next 7-8 years. 8 years.
And ये वाला जो diversification piece है, which I spoke about also earlier, that Bajaj Auto earlier used to be like a very big client for us. Now still like on standalone is 50%. But are we like really trying hard to make that diversification happen? Is it like
Of course, you must have seen that over the past 3-4 years, 5 years, 6 years. We have done anything and everything.
No,
to
I
do
know
to make
cracking
that happen.
TVS was a big
There are two ways to reduce Bajaj share of business. One is to refuse Bajaj business, which
Which
we
is
are
not
not
a good
doing.
strategy.
Which we are not
Obviously,
doing.
yeah.
And the other is to grow others.
No, I think cracking TVS in itself was a big thing. Not a easy place, but that has happened. So again, if you can just take TVS as a case study, what actually happened, what efforts went into it, and then how do you see it growing over time?
Okay, let me put it this way. If you are comparing to Bajaj today my revenue is somewhere around 2,500, 3,000.
3,000.
3,000. That means all my other customers, I have got a potential to grow and make another Bajaj out of it. ठीक है, ये तो है ना?
Yeah, yes,
At
yes.
least potential तो है ना?
Yes,
आपको
yes,
upside
potential.
देखना ना, मैं आपको upside दिखा रहा हूँ.
ठीक है.
ठीक है? If I'm at 500 crores today, that means a lot has to be done in TVS.
Yes, first question was ये हुआ कैसे? Like how were you able to crack TVS? I think.
See, there are 2-3 things.
With that.
First of all, they I'm assuming that they always thought that we are a Bajaj Auto company. In the sense that they had some equity also, which we somehow we in constant mailers and all, we told them Bajaj Auto has got nothing to do as far as equity is. This is a standalone company.
Correct.
IPO may have also helped.
IPO may have also helped
correct.
Because Bajaj doesn't even appear as related party.
Yes.
ठीक है, तो वो भी that must have helped. Secondly, ये जो China dependence के ऊपर जो change point आया, I think they were largely dependent on brakes from a company called Hangtae.
Okay.
ठीक है?
Which is a Chinese company.
Which is a Chinese company,
Okay.
and they had to localize that. उस
Okay.
localize में क्या है? Brembo was not the option, which I believe is not the option of everyone.
Got it.
To 100% dependent on Brembo, because that is also an Italian company. ठीक है? They're firmly here. ऐसा नहीं है कि I'm going
Correct.
to due respect to them, but I don't see that as because cost competitiveness and other things we would be
Correct.
other beat and that's where the first opportunity was to come.
Okay.
Now, in spite of our first dominance being die casting, we didn't get any orders from die casting. Our prime this thing was कि हम proprietary में थे.
Got it.
So we started with brakes, and then again China वाला जो है वो that was alloy wheel. So we get an opportunity on alloy wheel.
Alloy wheel side.
Now, alloy wheel is a big revenue
Correct.
thing, no? So they have, in fact, it is because of TVS that we have expanded now to 210,000. 190 से 210,000 तक जा रहे हैं. Alloy wheel. So alloy wheel and brakes became a very strong.
So basically, import substitution is something that you could crack through.
We could crack through.
Okay.
then in what we have delivered to them in the past 2 years or something is a performance which they have much appreciated.
Yeah,
Very much.
that is how you have to get first a foothold to something and then, okay.
They
and-
made a visit to our place, they
Okay.
understood the capabilities, the capacities and everything, they understood everything.
Oh.
And they realized, you know, that we mean business. Second, उनका एक reason और भी हो सकता है, which they have never said that. But वो जो है ना कि we are Bajaj company, उनका apprehension सिर्फ equity से नहीं है. उनका है कि our service level to Bajaj is almost 35 years. So when it comes to ramp up periods, will our choice first area of preference be Bajaj Auto?
Okay. You won't end up giving the better. Okay,
things
got it.
मतलब volume wise. प्राइस वाइज तो अलग
Legitimate,
होगा ही, ठीक है,
legitimate,
एक कोई
yeah.
1000 है वहां पर 980 की होगी या 980 है तो वो 1000 होगा, मगर within my capacities, if Bajaj goes up and I consume their capacities for their requirements, that was probably a bigger apprehension.
Got it. Okay.
Second, the third apprehension was that designs and everything which, if at all we engage with them to make new designs and all, if their designs are better than any configuration of Bajaj Auto, will we pass on that to them?
Share it. Okay.
But now they're away from all these thoughts. They know that
And you were able to give confidence on all these things.
Oh,
Not
yes.
easy.
I think word of mouth से भी हुआ होगा with
नहीं,
Royal
not only
Enfield,
that,
HMSI,
HMSI है ना, Honda जब
आपके
Honda
पास
में
तो
दे
मतलब
सकता
you
है,
have Yamaha, you
तो जब HMSI में दे सकता है, Honda दे सकता है, Hero,
correct.
जब इन्होंने हमें business दिया, I'm sure that
Okay.
they must have also thought in these terms. कि
That.
yes, the confidentiality is something
And
that
how
we can
long
do.
did it take to break through in that account? Like how long you would have worked?
We
to-
started our intensification activity way back in 2013.
अच्छा.
कब हमने build किया था? 13 हाँ, 2000 strategy document.
19 में order मिला होगा.
नहीं, strategy document हमने 2013 में बनाया था.
Wait किया था.
ठीक है, build किया था. Where we intensification was one of our
Got it.
this
हाँ.
thing. And उस intensification was to get more customers, to get more business, to get
Got
more
it,
revenues, to add R&D facilities, to do sourcing. काफी सारी हमने intensification activities बनाई थी. उसमें ये भी था कि हाँ भी we must get TVS orders.
Got it. हाँ.
तो उसमें थोड़ा टाइम लगना था, हमें मालूम था.
हाँ.
तो जैसे जैसे हमारे साथ Honda ऐड हो गया, Hero ऐड हो गया,
Okay.
और वो
That.
Yamaha और ऐड हो गया, तो वो चीजें वहाँ reinforce होती चली गई. Yes, other customers are also giving us orders. And something like a Kawasaki, they gave us orders directly for supplies to Japan also.
Correct.
So that reinforced.
Okay.
Then high-end suspension. If at all we are getting technology from KTM, that means we are enhancing and upgrading our product also.
Correct.
So they would have clearly seen कि suspension अगर यहाँ से आ रही तो wherever they would also tie up with BMW and also any kind of high-end suspension required could be routed through us also. So I'm sure they must have seen the merits
Okay.
of holding around with the orders. And today,
But then 2019 is when the first business started.
2019 was the first. And then of course, एक बार 2019 में start हो गया तो उसके बाद तो it's your service level which talks more.
Correct. Then you. So now the number that we are saying, say 500 crores. What is the time frame where we are expecting it to scale up to that level? Right now we must be 100, 125.
No, we are already at 500.
500 crores TVS revenue run rate आ
हो
गया
गया ना,
अभी?
कितना आ गया? TVS का run rate?
Order value is 500 crores.
नहीं order value नहीं annual run rate अभी TVS का
अभी
कितना
sales
होगा?
कितना है?
I thought it's 100, 125
नहीं, नहीं.
crores अभी. कितना है?
उससे ज़्यादा तो alloy wheel का ही होगा. कितना है देखो?
We are around 4% of India business. So 60 crores into 4, 240, 250
अच्छा,
crores.
240 to 50 आ गया. So and that 500 crores what we say is like the annual revenue
Order value.
that we'll reach, right? So maybe in a year's time or so that should happen. That is scaling. Okay, that is. So abhi whatever this new order inflow that we've spoken about, new lines, new products, EVs, combination, everything. In this we make several assumptions also, right? There's an assumption of how much Triumph will do, how much etc. as in other models will do as well. So just trying to understand what is that reasonableness that with which we should take the numbers. As in when you give us an understanding that maybe you have a new order ramp up of 1,200 crores this year. So are you like toning it down and giving it to us, or these are like the numbers you get from the client and you're just passing it
These
to
are the
us?
numbers which we get from our clients. For example, if I say my order book is this much, it's based on the LOI.
Okay.
It's based on the. Now, how much will Bajaj or other customers perform with
Correct.
respect
How
to
much
that?
will Harley do? How much will
Because
Triumph do?
that
We don't
I don't
that.
know as yet.
Correct. So
But
that's
if at
what I
all
was
I've
asking.
got orders worth that much and I've built up capacities that much, then I have to take that order of value only.
So how will it happen? Suppose Harley has given you that order of a particular amount and they don't reach that number. Just imagine, negative. Obviously, there can be a positive surprise. If they don't reach that amount, it will just get spread over a longer period, right? From their point of view.
From their point of view.
Okay.
We can't bill them because they haven't met their volume commitments.
Obviously,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
doesn't. So
Yeah.
right now it's just like an estimate that they've given you. They'll do so much numbers, and from there.
See, they are into the business of selling vehicles to the end users, to the consumers.
Correct.
So their market study must have already said, no, कि ये vehicle इस segment पे इतनी market value है उसकी या इतनी market size
And
है.
then they're coming. So,
then
but
they're coming.
my question was, are you toning it down and giving, or are you just giving directly? So you're saying directly is what you're giving.
No,
So we
if
can put our
the
own.
volumes given on, let us say, news channels or something is X,
Huh.
but if I've got an LOI of X minus or X plus, I will give you only the LOI numbers.
Got it. You are not nothing to do with that,
I'm
but
not-
you are giving it directly.
I am not playing around with their projections.
Got it.
I'm just giving the LOI मेरे पास जितने का है, that is my business.
That is the number.
It's fair to say it that way, no?
Yeah, for the larger OEMs, yes.
For the larger
For
OEMs.
some very small OEMs, even if they give us larger numbers, if we don't believe those numbers, we
You
do.
will tone it down. Because as in the past, if you would have tracked this number, like we started getting this number now, but in the past, if you would have tracked this number, there would be what? Plus minus 20% leeway to this new order.
See, HMSI gave us a very large order in 2017 and 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, from there has been a minus of more than 20%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
and it is surely because they missed their volume.
yeah, their scooter volumes were much
Correct,
lower
correct.
than. I mean, in 2017-18, they were the heroes in the scooter market.
Right.
Yeah, scooters were doing very well. Motorcycles was taking a
They
beating,
had a very large
and
share.
within scooters, Honda was doing very well.
Correct.
So there was no reason for us to not believe the numbers at that
Correct.
time. And in any case, large OEMs, we believe their
Got it.
numbers.
So there you are giving, it was a 20% kind of.
उधर शायद 20 से ज़्यादा drop होगा. Which is why our Sanand and our Narsapur facilities have extra capacity today.
Oh, got it.
But then we build capacities for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
But say Hero में we had an LOI for 6,500 vehicle sets
Yes.
per.
वो आज भी आधा नहीं पहुंचा है हलोल का.
ठीक है, नहीं पहुंचा वो आज तक भी.
And it again, I'm asking, ये हीरो का भी जो आप एग्जांपल दे रहे हो नहीं पहुंचा है because Hero didn't meet their numbers or
Hero
there's
didn't
something
meet the
else?
numbers.
अच्छा.
Hero. See, उनका
They don't change it like कि अच्छा अब यहाँ से नहीं कहीं और से लेना है वो नहीं
नहीं नहीं वो
वो एक बार
100%.
decide
We
हो
are
गया तो
100% suspensions in their Halol factory.
got it.
उनका एक business guidance आता है.
Fair
Hero
enough.
का, every year.
Hmm.
ठीक है, they did not meet that guidance.
Which is ठीक है उसमें कुछ कर नहीं सकते.
मगर हमने कैपेसिटी मैं अगर if I've got an LOI of 6,500 and I go and tell Hero then I'm putting a capacity of only 4,000 because I don't believe your numbers, they'll start,
Obviously. No, that's not fair.
they'll hammer me down the ground,
Correct.
But did they do us a favor by giving us some Chittoor volumes considering
Yes,
that?
they did. They did.
So they did us a disfavor in Halol because they didn't reach volumes.
So they gave you some.
Yeah.
That's
Chittoor and even Neemrana.
Okay, Neemrana also we know.
Neemrana, अभी जो जब
So this is like strengthening, na? This is good.
when they started, when they wanted to start Halol, they were delayed.
Hmm.
And we said that we are setting up capacities, you are not delayed, your numbers are not coming up. And this, then they, to start with, they gave us Neemrana.
Got it.
So we supplied to Neemrana. Then when this, we continued Neemrana because we said we are not reaching 6,500.
Correct.
Then we said now you have not reached Neemrana and with this put together, so give us Chittoor also. We got something of Chittoor also.
Okay. So generally, as a company, when we say like two-wheeler growth is say 6-7%, putting a general number, I know what you showed is it's been far poorer than 6-7% of the two-wheeler
1.2%,
growth.
no?
I know. I was shocked to read that number over the 10-year time frame. But if it's 6-7%, then Endurance always says that we'll grow a tad faster than that. So how much is that number that which you kind of assume that you should grow in addition to the two-wheeler industry growth? Maybe because of
I will never try to put that number because if I've got a potential of going higher than what I can project for myself,
I know, but
I'll go there, no?
that is good. But again, just for understanding.
No, we don't give that number. We
That
give
is
you
not-
pillars of why we believe there will be growth.
Okay.
So that Mr. Gyan has
And,
already
and
spoken
is
to you
that
about.
value addition a part in all the products you're present in, or it's as in how do you say it? Suppose you were giving a suspension for so much value, and now the profile of the bikes itself has moved up, so the value of their
If the configuration of the bike changes,
right.
yes, then the value adds up.
Yeah, because premiumization in bikes would be happening, so then your part value also increases.
Yeah.
So
and
that
the
part
premiumization which is happening, say, for a high-end bike, more higher CC bike,
Correct.
that we also try and convince the customers that if not the same premiumization, give some features of that in your lower CC bike also.
Got it. So that, and the way the new business pipeline is looking right now, at least it looks very good to us, isn't it? Because 10% growth right now on base business is straight away, which is visible from this new business growth. So has it been the case in the past few years also, or is it only now the case that these numbers are looking so high?
No, it's now that these numbers are looking, because I think the acceptable or the acceptability of high-end bikes is more on the youth now.
Okay.
Means earlier, मुझे ऐसा लगता है that the disposable income with parents or people has increased.
Correct. And willingness to spend has
And
also
willingness
increased.
to spend has also increased.
No, but for you as a company, when you talk about the new orders that you are building or which can get executed, that number used to be historically also 12%, or historically it used to be like 5-6%?
I think it used to be high. I'm just trying to
Yeah,
hazard a
just
guess. Right?
remember,
I think
yeah.
it used to be high, but it used to be highly skewed towards one or two customers. Abhi ye jo, when we are saying 307 crores in FY24 Q1 or 935 crores in FY23, it's
Right.
quite widespread.
Acha. So that
I mean, it's a quick
Yeah,
judgment
maybe,
I'm making.
yeah,
I don't know whether what I'm saying is correct or not.
got it. Oh. And again, if you can talk about the efforts of the four-wheeler side. Again, that is one area that you yourself are trying to make inroads working. But what is the hindrance there? One, obviously we are not present in that space, but is it like certain profitability number which is kind of
No.
stopping us from getting more orders on the four-wheeler side, or what is the roadblock in ramping
There's
up?
no roadblock. See, whatever opportunities are coming our way. See, earlier, okay, let me answer this in a different way. First, we always wanted to capture that space which was available to us in which we had the domain expertise.
Okay,
Okay,
which
and that was two-wheelers.
two-wheelers comes first.
Now, if at all I have not captured the space that is available for me in which I am an expert, why open a new subject?
Okay.
Tata mein, I was supplying castings and Tatas and Mahindra since the past 25 years. So we continued with that.
Okay.
While we were down in South, the purpose we opened the plant over there was Hyundai and Renault Nissan, they gave us some orders in die casting. So we went over there and opened up. Now, while we were there, Kia and this Hyundai and all, they said, okay, if you are willing to expand, we'll give you more orders. So we said, yes, we are willing to expand. So while we started expanding our South zone operations, these big opportunities came to us. So Hyundai for their new model and their Kia model gave us the opportunity. And that's why we are at some around 250 crores or so
Yes.
with them.
Yeah.
And Tatas and Mahindras, we don't say no to them. We are still supplying around 100 crores to Tata and even now.
Okay. Okay.
So we are not going to say no to no business that
Obviously.
comes our way.
Obviously.
But the change point is that we are trying to supply fully finished castings so that our value add, in-house value add increases and we become more profitable.
Correct. Okay.
But four-wheeler mein, yes, our focus is there. If at all there are bigger opportunities which come our way to expand, we will do that.
But it will be a die casting segment
It will be in the because other segments I don't have any
right now.
collaboration or backup technology. Although we had some magnetic Marelli earlier, but we still did not go with it. That of course we broke off when we parted ways. That was for four-wheeler suspension.
Okay.
But right now we don't have any collaborative backup with any of the technology providers for four-wheeler. And so we'll start with die casting.
Okay. And how is the visibility there? Again, when I'm saying like say 3 years down the line, you see that four-wheeler proportion could become bigger, or are you saying that okay, it would be like two-wheeler is also growing? So
No, four-wheeler proportion can grow further.
okay.
Can grow
And
bigger.
why do you say that? Like, what's the backing for that?
See, first of all, vehicles are, passenger vehicles, passenger cars, commercial vehicles are increasing. Die casting technology or die casting technology is for four-wheeler applications needs a lot of R&D and design and other facilities in house, which we are probably a notch higher than our competition.
Okay.
And thirdly, many die casting companies are not doing well.
Okay.
Okay?
Hmm.
I can't name them, but
Got
many
it.
die casting companies are not doing well.
You mean financially, right?
Financially. So that's where we hold an edge.
Got it. Okay. So these pieces of business can start coming to us. And on that side where you said machining part, so up till now the clients have been doing that machining in-house, right?
Yeah,
That is the
to quite a lot of parts. But now they've started buying fully machined components.
Yeah, because for them also it makes
Investment नहीं
sense.
है ना उनका, उनको तो zero investment है ना.
Correct.
Zero investment if they are getting a product.
Right.
चला नहीं चला वो तुम्हारी इन्वेस्टमेंट जो है केपेक्स तुम्हारा जा रहा है.
Correct. Agreed.
OEM तो बहुत वो हो गए हैं. They become far more intelligent.
Yeah.
And
Time teaches.
when I superannuate and leave the industry, then I'll tell you, okay, हाँ भाई, in the quest of earning more business, we kept on investing.
Maybe fair enough. And obviously, OEM gets that advantage, and that is why they want to partner. But okay. Quickly on the Europe side, if you can give me some understanding. I know that the way we are diversifying, going away from ICE and building on that hybrid and EV space as well. So some bit on that. And secondly, a perspective on why does European operation need so much of capex? Because I always thought that Europe is not like a focus area. But when the capex number comes, not 600 crores now, even earlier at 350 crores, then why do we need that ongoing capex in Europe?
But earlier years they were doing somewhere 30 million.
30 million.
Ah,
So
30
300 crores, you say. Euros.
Oh, euros, not 300 crores. So, in Europe, number of models that come in, number of platforms that come in, if you are not keeping pace with those, then soon you will be outperformed by someone else.
Okay.
Okay. The opportunities that we have picked up over there are large orders from customers like Volkswagen, Stellantis, and others, which are new platforms.
Okay.
So you had to invest over there.
Okay. But this is the case now, this year, or this is the case like...
It's been happening.
See, the die casting machines are common, whether it is for the old part or the new EV part. The die casting machine is common. The dies have to be replaced, of course. And when it comes to machining, for specific new parts, they are having to invest in new machining assets.
Okay.
So after the aluminum product is cast, then it has to be machined.
Correct.
So machining ke liye, depending on the end product, there is some capex requirement. And these new
that is
capex
the
that we
nature
are
of the
doing,
business there,
so
and that has to-
300 crore or 30 million is steady state. I mean,
Correct.
that we will be doing year after year after year. The 60 million which we've announced this time, that is a one time you can say, because of the large number of EV and hybrid orders that we've got.
Okay. So it's like new models you've got and then you're investing in it. Okay. And so European side, what kind of growth do we foresee?
And in Europe, we've also invested a lot in automation, which has helped us in this downturn. You know, our
Okay.
fixed cost was lower than competitor.
Yeah, in Europe it makes sense for the salaries, etc.
Yeah,
They're
correct.
investing in automation is a good investment.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And we are also investing in solar power. Having seen the jolts of energy crisis last year, our solar power investments are also growing.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah. So European side, what is the kind of growth that we foresee?
Now it depends how the geopolitical situation improvises over there. Although Ukraine is a history now, means nobody bothers about their war that is going on. Although people may be concerned, so would anybody. But I think they're recalibrating themselves to things like energy and other things.
Yeah.
Vehicles will happen because the configuration of the vehicle is converting from ICE to EVs. So new platforms, new opportunities will come. There are fear factors over there because earlier the vehicles which are if they see a 17.9% increase in new car registrations this year or last quarter, is primarily because the orders which were picked up long back, they are getting delivered now.
Correct.
So that's an increase in. Now, how does it span from here onwards? That will depend on many factors. Okay. Especially as Massimo says that inflation is becoming a big issue over there.
Interest rate also.
Interest rates will becoming an issue
Yeah,
over there.
there's one car higher than-
So these are their worries over there.
So because of which overall growth itself could be a bit
May
constrained, and
compress.
then for us the growth in Europe is linked to the like PV growth happening there, or
linked to the performance of the OEMs over there.
correct?
It has to be. I
but
mean,
is it like
that is the big factor.
number of new orders there also, the way we talked about
the
here.
number of new orders there has also been growing, which is why, I mean, they have had, in a 10-year period, they have had CAGR negative in new car registrations.
Okay.
Yeah, our growth has been roughly 8%.
Okay. And what kind of focus area does Europe continue to remain for us? Again, from company's perspective, how important is Europe for us?
It is, I mean, our traditional die casting operations, it continues to be very important. It's 25% of our revenue, so it's not something to be ignored. Yeah, and then from a two-wheeler perspective and aftermarket perspective, it's gaining new focus now.
Okay.
When you talk about how important is our Europe business, I think it's a model that we have built up with a lot of intelligence and strategic reasons. And how many companies of India stationed in Europe are doing as well as we are doing? No one, probably. So it's a profitable business model which has sustained something like a COVID and a downturn, and even this Ukraine war, and still made money. So it's a very strategic positioning over there that we have. From there, we can cater to different parts of the world. You know, competition. Like suppose if I'm unable to supply anything from here to any of the OEMs, I can supply from there somewhere else.
Okay.
So we can probably leverage our.
So basically, sounds like more like diversification again, part in the scheme of things. But when it comes to growth, etc., the standalone piece grows faster, and hence, as a proportion, that piece can reduce.
And where did this exactly come from? How did Europe get born for us? It was diluting Bajaj Auto.
Okay.
I think acquisitions.
That was the first thought. Yeah.
Acquisitions made us do that fast. ये अलग बात है कि 2008 में what we faced was nothing less than a nightmare.
Agreed. Yeah. वो तो सबके लिए tough time था, and I think everybody had to go through their learning cycles in that phase. So that happened, but okay, got it. So that's the understanding there. Great. Anything else that you would want to share, talk about?
Anything else that you would like to know?
Yeah, I mean, there's more to know if you come visit us sometime.
We are based in Mumbai. Aurangabad is a direct flight. It takes only 35 minutes to get 35 to 40 minutes to land. You can come in the morning and go back in the evening. I can show you what we do over there. So, and there's an old saying: a picture is better than 1,000 explanations. So whatever I explained can be much better seen on the ground. You're most welcome.
And just your comment on the EV side. So EV side, is this lot of noise and no substance, or how do you see the EV side?
No, there's plenty of substance. That's why 479,000 vehicles have already been sold into the 479 year. ना?
इस साल में FY23
इतनी गाड़ियाँ already बिक चुकी हैं, ठीक है, जिसमें से I think
गाड़ी including two wheelers.
Yeah. तो overall segment तो बढ़ रहा है, and the noise of Tesla coming to India, वो सब तो hype तो बना रहेगा.
ठीक है.
Now क्योंकि इतना कुछ then कौन है अपना Amitabh Kant talking so much about EV and Gadkari talking about so much of roads and all. तो ये hype तो बना रहेगा.
ठीक है.
और
सर टू व्हीलर लेके 1 मिलियन क्रॉस कर गया FY23 में.
ठीक है तो.
So that's there to stay, and then हम लोग जो 600 crores बात कर रहे हैं EV order book, again वो क्या time horizon तक you see it becoming 600 crores annual basis पे?
FY26.
FY26.
Yeah.
So all these ICE and EVs are going to coexist. They will coexist. देखते हैं आगे क्या होता है. जो मेरे व्यूज हैं वो थोड़े एप्रीहेंसिव टाइप से हैं, क्योंकि अभी तक 3-4 साल जब व्हीकल आ जाएगा ना मार्केट में, तब एंड यूजर को पता चलेगा बैटरी चेंज करने में 40,000 लग रहे हैं, तो वो सोचेगा क्या मेरे को ईवी रिपीट करना है,
प्रॉफिटेबल हुआ कि नहीं हुआ,
कि मेरे को ईवी रिपीट करना है वापस आइस पे
जाना है. ओह इंटरेस्टिंग. ये भी हो सकता है.
ये हो सकता है.
ओके.
थैंक यू चीनू.
Thank you, Chino. Nice talking to you. Good set of questions. You were well prepared. You didn't have any notes, but you were well prepared.
No, again, if you are invested in a company, you better know.
So I hope you're going out with satisfying answers.
Yeah, definitely. And it always makes sense to speak and talk about not so near-term things, understand how the company is thinking.
Yeah.
You left the card or what?
No, I took it. The earlier person I took the cards. So good. Pleasure meeting you. Thank you. So we are not very, just to tell, unhappy about the bad things happening. Our idea is always to know if bad things are to happen. We don't like surprises that much. I think that's the only thing. If we understand difficult times, that's fair. And every business, including ours, has its own difficult times and good times. So just try to meet with the companies and understand that okay, if there's something happening, you should know why it's happening.
Yeah,
and
the
how it's
only difficult thing that we see is European inflation. So new car registrations will dip further.
correct. I think Ian kind of good question out there.
See the bad things that you're talking about, ठीक है, which you call as a surprise, ठीक है, neither they're known by you nor by us, ठीक है.
Unknown से problem नहीं है. Many a times companies know, but I don't know for what fear or something they don't wish to, like sound off investors. So I think that is the only thing we try to do in these one-on-ones and build that we have a good understanding of the business so that we stay through the thick and the thin.
But why would somebody say that, okay, that he's forcing some problems, right?
No, so there are
They do
companies,
that.
not only
But
do
they
they
do
not
that.
say that, but they also don't acknowledge mistakes. Like we told the public that we were late in targeting Okinawa.
And people do take
Yeah.
difficult. I'll tell you
Yeah.
one very big reason for this because many times we get good investment times when difficult times are there. So at least when I have in my portfolio and I know that this is a good company from long term, but maybe impending like IT, just to give an example, next 2 quarters seem tough. They are running rough winds, and so we use this time to accumulate. So we do know it. We use it.
You use
So
it to your
being
advantage.
being long term investors, we don't have to worry that like next quarter has to be very good. But yeah.
So it seems that we also need a one-to-one session with him.
She's not allowed to, I guess.
But it was a pleasure catching up and we will keep it.
Thank you.
Thank you.